I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
It was the grand launch of NDTV World by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. NDTV World, as he laid out his vision for the India century at the NDTV World Summit.
ऐसी सदी जिसमें भारत के प्रयासों से दुनिया में स्थिरता आए,
in the presence of those who are shaping our future.
मेरी तरफ से आपको ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं हैं.
In his first speech after the 2024 election, US President Joe Biden referred to Vice President Kamala Harris's defeat by Donald Trump as a setback. He also added that you cannot love your country only when you win. But Biden said he's directed his administration to work with Trump's team for a peaceful transition of power. He also stressed the integrity of the election, calling it honest, fair and transparent. However, you must note his statement made no mention of Trump, who will bookend Biden's sole term in office.
Yesterday, I spoke with President-elect Trump to congratulate him on his victory, and I assured him that I'd direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. That's what the American people deserve. We're leaving behind the strongest economy in the world.
In other crucial news, US Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has said he would not resign if he received any pressure from Donald Trump's new administration to step down as the central bank lowered interest rates by 1/4 point. And Trump has been a persistent critic of the Fed and its independence, as you are well aware, calling its officials boneheads in his last administration, and also arguing that he should have a role in setting interest rates. The Fed, though, lowered interest rates by 1/4 point, knocking them down for the second time in a row as inflation continues to ease and a Trump presidency hangs over the central bank. So rates now stand at 4.5% to 4.75%, down from a decade's high level of 5.25% to 5.5%. Here's what the Fed chairman had to say. In other crucial news, well, North Korea's involvement in Ukraine has drawn China into a bit of a delicate act. Is Beijing in a tough spot now with North Korea's deployment in Russia's war in Ukraine? Well, to find out more and to decipher the exact details, we have with us China expert, Professor Avinash Godbole. Thank you so much, sir, for making time for us on NDTV.
Thank you for having me.
Professor, how is China reacting to the increasing cooperation between North Korea and Russia? Does this shift in North Korean alignment actually signal any potential changes in China's foreign policy or strategic interests?
Well, I think China will not like the recent development because it will put a lot of pressure back on China. First of all, it shows that there's an erosion of influence that China has had over Pyongyang for stability of the region and for other places. There's a possibility that the North Korean troops that are fighting on behalf of Russia are fighting along the Russian troops, and these are specialized units that are supposed to take back some of the provinces taken over by the Ukrainian forces. So their presence might be time bound. But again, for China, it creates headaches. It's not good for them. It shows erosion of China's influence in the region. It will mean there'll be more scrutiny of Chinese actions. There'll be more expectations from them. And what has helped China over the last 3 years was that Russia had become the bad boy in the world. And then with this recent news, the focus will shift back to China. There'll be more expectations from China to act tough on North Korea. And to also, it will put in question China's neutrality position in the overall crisis. So far, they have been criticizing Ukraine subtly, that the crisis is because of the Western influence and the world should remain neutral. But China no longer can take that stance as the things stand today.
In fact, many actually argue that the entry of North Korean troops risks a dangerous escalation in the Russia-Ukraine war, while also putting Beijing in a bit of a tight spot. But how could this new phase of North Korean-Russian cooperation then influence the stability of the broader East Asian region, sir?
It will destabilize East Asia because there's news that there are 10,000 soldiers already in Russia, about 6,000 closer to the active duty, and there's a possibility that the numbers will increase by another 2,000 by end of November, and then one more 1,000, so total 13,000 by end of December. So there'll be more pressure on China. There'll be more satellite as well as ground presence. We might see maneuvering of the American naval ships closer to the North Korean borders, the North Korean waters, as well as there's an intent by South Korea to send weapons to Ukraine now. That has been expressed over the last 48 hours. So there's more active participation by other countries can take this situation to the not just a bilateral war, but to a global war, which it was under the covers so far. But openly, it will become a more multi-party war. And that is not good for China. China's economy is not in good shape. They want stability. They also have to deal with Trump now. So it makes things certainly difficult for China.
Indeed. In fact, it can also raise serious questions as far as regional stability is concerned. Professor Godbole, Mao had once upon a time reportedly said that without the lips, the teeth are cold when describing China's relationship with North Korea. How does this historical analogy still shape China's strategic approach to North Korea today?
Well, China has since then become pragmatic. It is not exporting communism to other countries, but then they still want to maintain North Korea the way it is. They would still like to avoid the American intervention in the region. China has maintained a delicate balance of its relations between Japan and South Korea. They have reinstated the trilateral dialogue, which had gone down before COVID only recently. So China would want to maintain that stability in the North Korea. And the more pressure there is on North Korea on economic terms, there's more pressure on China to act, to provide aid, to consider the prospect of refugees on its border as well. If the North Korean regime were to collapse because of any other consequent actions by the Americans later. So they want stability in the region and in the North Korea as well, from their selfish reasons as well. Not so much because of ideological perspective anymore, but from their selfish strategic reasons at this point, I would think dictates more.
Well, Professor Godbole, thank you so much for shedding light on these crucial aspects. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates as and when we see further developments. With that, let's turn our attention now to the Iran aspect of what Trump's win actually means for the United States foreign policy. In fact, Iran has called on Trump to review the US government approach to the region. As you know, Trump's first term in the White House was not ideal for Iran's foreign policy in specific. But what exactly does Trump 2.0 mean for not just the United States, but the world? Here's our report.
So Donald Trump's return to the White House has potential to reshape the US's foreign policy. Trump has said in the past that he will end the Russia-Ukraine war in a day when he makes a comeback to the White House. Although he hasn't provided any specifics about the plans, the war has been going on for more than 2.5 years now, and there seems to be no end in sight. The conflict-ridden Middle East will be one of the key areas for the incoming Trump administration. Trump has promised to bring peace to the region, but then again, he hasn't given any details on how he plans to stop the two big conflicts in the region which involve Israel, Hamas, and Hezbollah. These conflicts have killed more than 45,000 people, most of them women and children in Gaza. There is no ceasefire deal in sight at the moment, and how Trump steers the Gaza and Lebanon ceasefire deals remains to be seen. Now to China. How Trump manages relations with China is one of the most talked about topics when it comes to US's foreign policy. Experts suggest that Trump is likely to increase import tariffs on China, which would most likely invite countermeasures from China. On the other hand, there is also a likelihood that Trump could be open to pragmatic deals with Chinese President Xi Jinping.
Well, for further clarity as far as Iran's affairs are concerned, we have with us Dr. Reza Khanzadeh. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, Dr. Reza. There are still comprehensive sanctions on Iran, as we are aware, but the Biden administration, as many have pointed out, has tended to look the other way at Iran's oil sales. Are officials in Iran now worried about Trump's return and perhaps the prospect of tougher sanctions enforcement? You believe something will change in the US-Iran relationship?
Thanks for having me. Yes, I do believe there is a high potential for there to be a change in the U.S. and Iran relationship for a whole host of reasons. The one most important that I think hasn't been talked too much on the news circuit is the age of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. He will be 86 years old when Trump is in his first year as president, and 4 years into Trump's presidency, Khamenei will reach 90 years old if he makes it to 90. And there's been, quiet whispers and rumors that Khamenei does have a terminal illness, so he may not even live past Trump's full 4 years as president. So keeping that in mind, on top of all the internal turmoil that's going on in Iran, particularly with the Women Life Freedom protests, there is a domestic pressure on the regime to think for a long-term strategy beyond just Trump and beyond just Khamenei, because he will pass away. They need to find some type of off-ramp with these conflicts to where their own existence, the regime's own existence, can sustain beyond Khamenei's passing. So with that in mind, and also with the new president of Iran, publicly talking about wanting to, strike a deal with the U.S. and lift sanctions and exactly, yeah. So there could be a way for the two to strike a deal. And also Trump has talked about how he wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize and he wants to end the wars and he wants to be like this hero or savior for the Middle East. And although
the local papers in Iran, though, today, the newspaper Hamshari actually put an artist's rendering of Trump in an orange prison jumpsuit and the handcuffs under the headline, Return of the Murderer, while in fact a hardline local publication said it was back to the crime scene. Dr. Reza, is there then any reason to be hopeful with Trump back in the White House for Iran?
It is, because you have to keep in mind these magazines and newspapers and media outlets inside Iran are all controlled by the regime in some shape or form. There isn't, freedom of press in Iran to the way that we understand it in like the, global north or in, countries like America or in Europe. So when we see these types of ads and these types of articles, we should consider it with, with some type of, understanding that this is more, appeasing to the people within the regime, but then also the citizens within Iran to try to continue that narrative that, U.S. is the enemy and we can't trust them and, there's no way we can strike a deal. It's kind of the same way that Trump, speaks a loud game, but then when push comes to shove, he is pragmatic and he is able to find a way to make a deal. Because if we think back during his first term, although he did assassinate, Qasem Soleimani, he had multiple attempts to actually strike militarily on Iran's nuclear sites and also their military sites, but he didn't because he understood that there's a calculation in that. And although he seems erratic, President Trump, although he may seem erratic and he may seem unpredictable, I feel that's a part of his strategy to try to keep his enemies, in this case Iran, on their toes and not understanding what his next move may be.
Well, some geopolitical analysts have argued that it really depends on Trump's calculations when it comes to Trump 2.0, whether he wants to be the guy who got the better deal, consistent with his self-image as master deal maker, as you are highlighting, or does he want to ensure that Americans enjoy cheap oil and gas? But whether he can do both is also an option that has not entirely been ruled out yet, as is the case with Trump. But Dr. Khanzadeh, as always, it's a pleasure to hear your perspective. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, as Donald Trump prepares for a possible second term, Iranians are split on what lies ahead. Some fear it could lead to an all-out war between Tehran and Washington, especially with ongoing conflicts in the region. Others hope Trump might surprise them with diplomacy like he did with North Korea in Trump 1.0. But the US is geared for Trump 2.0. We are meanwhile taking a very small break. We're back in a moment. Do stay tuned.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV Summit outlined his vision for the India Century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बने.
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
Not just Indians trusting India's leadership, but the global South especially trusting India's leadership.
Permanent seat on the UN Security Council is something that should be India's right.
Canada is concerned, I think there are some very specific issues. I think a lot of people know that.
AI is going to be one of the most important, drivers.
It's a very exciting time for India, Indian cinema as well at a global level.
NDTV World Summit was more than just a conversation. It was a confluence of ideas poised to shape our global future.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president.
Donald triumphs. What does Trump's win mean for America, for the world, for the wars, and for India-US relations? Non-stop coverage on NDTV. Top analysts and voices from the ground. Extensive coverage on NDTV.
Hello and welcome to India Sense, where I speak with global opinion makers.
The United States has made a strategic decision over the last 20 years to move closer to India.
So a $7 trillion economy seems a perfectly conceivable number.
If you want to be a national party, it's that you sort of accept the way the world is rather than want to endlessly hark back to how it was.
Modi is promoting the digitization of the economy, which is accelerating growth in the country.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
We reached an agreement on patrolling. We have gone back to where the situation was in 2020, and we can say with that the disengagement process with China, you can say, has been completed. The understanding, to my knowledge, is that we will be able to do the patrolling which we were doing in 2020.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility.
Well, a 7-judge Supreme Court bench reading out the verdict on whether Aligarh Muslim University is a minority institution or not. Ruckus in the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly, yet again a face-off over special status resolution. It is Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan versus Priyanka Gandhi Vadra over the Wayanad battle. The Chief Minister says that Priyanka is contesting with the support of the Jamaat. The Haveri police station in Karnataka registers an FIR against BJP MP Tejasvi Surya for a false claim that a farmer in the district died by suicide after having his land claimed by the Waqf board. And the air quality in Delhi continues to worsen, with multiple areas reaching severe levels this morning. Well, the big story that we are tracking at the top of this hour, a key order linked to the Aligarh Muslim University is being read out. The Supreme Court has pronounced a 4:3 majority judgment. That verdict is being read out by the Chief Justice of India. At the moment, the Supreme Court verdict is on AMU verdict by the 7-judge Supreme Court bench. The Supreme Court is announcing its verdict on the legal question whether Aligarh Muslim University enjoyed a minority status under Article 30 of the Constitution that empowers the religious and linguistic minorities in order to establish and administer educational institutions. Now, a couple of key issues before the Supreme Court there regarding the parameter for granting the minority status and as well as the establishment and governance questions. Remember, the AMU Act of 1920 founded the university, and subsequent amendments have led to debates about its minority status. In 1967, the Supreme Court ruled that the AMU was not a minority institution, but a 1981 amendment to the AMU Act redefined the university as an institution established by the Muslims of India. And that's the key word that's there. The current case, which is being read by the Chief Justice of India, the verdict that is being read by the Chief Justice of India, it revolves around the university's reservation policy, which reserves 50% of the seats in postgraduate courses for Muslim candidates. The Allahabad High Court, remember, had struck down this policy in 2005, which had led to an appeal in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's decision, it will have significant implications for AMU's autonomy as well as its ability to provide education to minority communities. The court's verdict will also set a precedent for the other educational institutions that are seeking minority status. And my colleague Ranveer joins us to get us more on this. Ranveer, just give us a sense of how significant this verdict is going to be, especially with respect to the minority status of Aligarh Muslim University.
This is going to be a historic judgment because AMU was established in 1877 by Sir Syed Ahmad, but it converted into Aligarh Muslim University in 1920, and since then it's enjoying the status of minority university as far as the legal status is concerned. The central government through amendment converted this university into a minority university after 1967's Supreme Court judgment. So the difference between a central university and a minority university is, in central university the quota applies, the SC, ST and OBC quota is mandatory in central universities, while if we talk about in central universities, but if we talk about minority university, the quota system is not applicable in AMU or Jamia Millia. So this is a controversy which is continuous since many decades, since 1960s. So today's 7-bench constitution bench of the Supreme Court is pronouncing the judgment, and if Supreme Court will say that this is a simple central university, then the quota will be applicable in AMU. While if the status of minority university will be retained by Supreme Court, then the system which is going on will continue. So obviously more than 40,000 students are studying there, more than 1,700 teachers are there, more than 5,500 non-academic staff is in AMU. There are 80 hostels inside AMU campus. So it's a huge university, and obviously this judgment is going to affect the students as well as the academic staff, and this judgment will also affect the status of university. So in future, in the coming academic year, the system can be changed if Supreme Court change the status of the AMU as a simple central university. So CJI, along with 6 other judges, they are pronouncing the judgment, and CJI said that Article 30 shall stand diluted if it applies to only institutes those which have been established after the Constitution come into force. Thus, educational institutions established by minority, which was established before the Constitution come into force, will also be governed by Article 30. So, this is this controversy is going around Article 30, and that's why the 7 judges Constitution bench, after consulting this legal issue, they are pronouncing the judgment, and the judgment is continuously coming out. My colleague Sunil Prabhu is in Supreme Court, my colleague Ashish Bhargava is in Supreme Court, and they are sending the details continuously. So CJI said institution must satisfy the test of minority institution on the date of coming of the Constitution. And also there were universities which were teaching colleges, and the process of converting teaching colleges to teaching universities is a process of forming an educational institution, and thus it cannot be seen this narrowly. It cannot be stated that an institution is formed by law just because the preamble of the Act says so. Fundamental rights.
You know, the Chief Justice of India, he is reading out that verdict. Let's, in fact, listen into what the Chief Justice of India is saying there. The Chief Justice of India has made a couple of key observations there. The Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, he has in fact said that it is not necessary to prove that administration rests with the minority in order to prove the institution to be a minority institution. That is a key point. Apart from that, the Chief Justice of India also mentioned that it is not necessary that the purpose of minority can be implemented only if the persons of the minority administer the institution.
So to AMU. Second, to determine question 3A formulated in TMA 5. And third, whether the decision of this court in Professor Yashpal versus Chhattisgarh State of Chhattisgarh and the amendment in 2010 in National Commission for Minority Education Institute Act 2004 have any bearing on the aforesaid question formulated. The fulcrum of this reference rolls around the interpretation of Article 30 of the Constitution of India, which deals with the right of minorities to set up education institutions. We have had the benefit of perusing the erudite majority opinion authored by Honorable the Chief Justice Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud. While the said opinion comprehensively addresses each issue with depth and clarity, we have expressed a differing view on the interpretation of certain aspects given the significant constitutional implications involved. Recognizing the weight of these issues, we have chosen to offer our own perspective, though we acknowledge the thoroughness and diligence with which the Honorable Chief Justice has approached this complex matter. Before we lay down the indicia under Article 30 to determine whether an institution has a minority character and ought to be afforded protection, we deem it appropriate to embark on a substantive analysis of the issues involved, and will begin by undertaking a comprehensive examination of the multifaceted nature of minority rights both in India and internationally. Then, after discussing the international and within India how the minority rights have been developed and established, then I have referred to the constitutional scheme which ultimately led to formation of Article 29 and 30. Then we have explained the statutory scheme of National Commission for Minority Act 1992 and other relevant statutes having any bearing. Thereafter, I have referred to the brief history of AMU and followed by the features of the AMU Act 1920. Of course, for the reasons which I have assigned later on, these provisions we have not interpreted at this stage. We have only highlighted that what was the statutory scheme. Then we have explained the challenge to the constitutionality of the 1951 and 1965 Amendment Acts in the AMU Act of 1920 and the contentions which were raised in Aziz Basa when these amendments came to be challenged. After taking notice of the rival contentions which were raised before the five-judge bench in Aziz Basa, then we have also briefly culled down the conclusions drawn by this court in Aziz Basa. After that, we have given the history of discordance with Aziz Basa. There we have said, having analyzed Aziz Basa, it is imperative to also take account the decisions proffered by this court in other relevant cases to holistically understand the background of the reference before this court. Then, after referring to the 1972 amendment in the 1920 Act, we have referred to thereupon the first discordant note was struck by a two-judge bench of this court in Anjuman. That was a case where the court was considering the minority status of an institution established by a society registered under the Society Registration Act 1860. The question raised therein pertained to whether such registration would be determinative against the minority status of this institution. In this regard, then two questions were formulated that we have reproduced. And after discussion, we have said that almost 2 decades after the reference in Anjuman came the magnum opus decision of the 11th judge bench in TMA Pi. In this case, the court was tasked with analyzing the different facets of Article 30. Then question 3A, which was not answered in TMA Pi, is reproduced. Then after giving history that how the Anjuman was also disposed of, we have referred to the contentions raised in the present case on both sides, the appellant side as well as the respondent side. And after that, we have notified the issues which arise for determination. There we have said, thus in our considered opinion, the instant reference based on the question of the test required to be fulfilled by an institution for seeking protection under Article 30 of the Constitution of India can be broken down into following segmented questions of law and fact. The first prefatory issues are, what are the requisite parameters of reference to a larger bench? What matters were intended to be addressed by the larger bench in Anjuman? What are the facets required to be considered by a regular bench of making a reference is made to a larger bench? What are the powers entrusted to the Chief Justice?
All right. In fact, my colleague Sunil Prabhu also joins us live to get us more on this. Sunil, what does this judgment in fact mean? And just break it down for us. What is being said in the court right now?
So it's a historic judgment as we speak. If you are seeing the visuals, you are listening to the dissenting judgments that are taking place. 4 judges, that is Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, his last day today. The next Chief Justice of India, Justice Sanjeev Khanna, and his other brother judges, Justice Pardiwala and Justice Manoj Mishra, have all authored together what Justice Chandrachud had read and has held that the view that what was in a 5-judge bench of the Aziz Basha case in 1967, that the minority character stops when the statute comes into force, has been overruled. That means whether AMS, Aligarh Muslim University, is minority or not, will be decided as per this judgment, which they have said very clearly. They have laid down the present case, and that is why they are placing it before the CGI to constitute a bench to decide on the correctness of the Allahabad High Court's judgment. It's on that basis, 4:3. They have really clearly given a lot of guidelines on how they will go ahead with this entire process. What will be established of a minority institution, including the fact that the historical perspective, that the minority status in the constitution imbibes from even the period of its evolution, of how the formation of the university and various other characteristics. They put a whole number of tests on that backdrop. So stopping short of calling it completely minority, they have made the grounds and determined and overruled a 5-judge bench, which makes it clear that the Aligarh Muslim University, which was conceptualized by our forefathers during the freedom movement and dates back to the 18th century and subsequently to the early 19th century. All that will have to be in determining about whether it is, a central university or a minority institution. So stopping short of that, they made it quite clear that the Aligarh Muslim University will have a minority university status, but of course a larger bench, another bench decided by the CGI by the new Chief Justice of India will decide on the correctness of the 2006 Allahabad High Court verdict.
Right, Sunil, just give us a sense of the implications that it might have on the minority status, and how will this particular ruling impact AMU's reservation policies now?
So that is something that has to be looked at, because AMU, what was the issue? What was the 2006 Allahabad High Court? They had overruled and had said that, you cannot, they had given minority state reservation for Muslim students in medical colleges. That was something that they had rejected. So it's on that basis that a fresh petition was put in. And now that this entire evolution has been shown, it's in that context that, the Supreme Court will determine it. As I said, the Aligarh Muslim University in a majority judgment 4-3 have held that it is to be a minority based on this judgment, but the determination will be decided by the Allahabad High Court when it hears this matter. When the Supreme Court hears this matter, when the new CGI refers this matter to it. So it's in that basis that this decision has come.
Right. Sunil, just also give us a sense of, the constitutional provisions that are in place that are being considered with respect to this particular verdict. What constitutional provisions support this particular decision that the Supreme Court has made as of now?
Well, what had happened in the Allahabad High Court, and I mean, put it in perspective, that they had struck down the reservation policy and the 1981 amendment, holding that AMU was not a minority institution, and this verdict was challenged in the Supreme Court. And this was in the 2019 referred to a 7-judge bench. Today, a 7-judge bench, 4-3, majority of them holding, and I say stopping short of calling it a minority character, have held that they have very clearly gone against the decision of the 5-judge bench to say that AMU is of a minority character.
Right. Sunil, just give us also a sense of what is the government's response going to be now, because the NDA, it had challenged that particular decision way back in the early 2000s. How is the government now likely to respond to this particular verdict?
Well, it depends on the government and power. If you, really look at it in its entirety, there's been a lot of flip-flop depending on who's been in power and who hasn't been in power. And that has been pointed out by the Chief Justice of India about the Solicitor General's permission. But very clearly, what we can say is the 1967 verdict, which held that AMU was a central university, has now been overruled. It had said that time it cannot be considered as a minority institution. In the light of that, 4 judges, Justice Chandrachud, Justice Pardiwala, Justice Manoj Mishra, the next Chief Justice of India, Justice Sanjeev Khanna, have all conferred and agreed that the next, and made it very categorical that AMU is minority in character.
All right, Sunil Prabhu, thank you very much for breaking it down for us and getting us the latest from that verdict. Very important verdict there by the Supreme Court on AMU's minority judgment. The Supreme Court has, in fact, read out its verdict on AMU's minority judgment. It has, in fact, overruled the 1967 judgment. Remember, the 1967 judgment was removed by AMU's minority status. It removed AMU's minority status. The Supreme Court, in fact, said that another bench will be constituted in order to decide that. A new bench will decide on the 2006 Allahabad High Court order. Remember, the 2006 High Court order had overruled the minority status. The Supreme Court, in fact, in the meanwhile, has referred the minority status to a new bench. And I've got with me Dr. M. Satyakumar, a constitutional expert and an advocate of the Supreme Court. Sir, welcome to NDTV. Just break it down for us. What does this judgment mean in very simple terms?
Yes, if you see the issue with respect to minority, the article that we need to refer is Article 30 of the Indian Constitution. If you see Article 30, it confers a special rights to the minorities. Considering the fact that the AMU was established pre-constitutional era, that is during the imperial, as an imperial institution, post-constitution came into picture in India from 1950 onwards. Then the question came whether those institutions which are of a minority character will be carrying forward a minority character, or it will have a central university recognition, and based on that, reservation criteria will apply. So considering this fact, in 1967, the minority status was 1967, there is a judgment, and subsequently Allahabad judgment came in 2006, and subsequently this was appealed in the Supreme Court. Now, as we see in the 4:3 judgment of the Supreme Court, we can understand Supreme Court has overruled 1967 judgment and said that AMU University, Aligarh Muslim University, is conferred with the minority status. However, the Allahabad High Court judgment with respect to minority, status of minority, has been referred to the other bench of the Supreme Court. If you see, the point to be noted here, Article 30, Clause 2, we have to draw our attention to Article 30, Clause 2, very important, which says the state shall not, in granting aid to education institutions, discriminate against any education institution on the ground that it is under the management of a minority, whether based on religion or language. And accordingly, even if it is categorized as a minority institution, state is not going to discriminate. However, the question comes, what reservation policy will apply in case of a minority institution? So that is the reason this fight is going on in the Supreme Court, where now the Supreme Court 4:3 judgment, in principle, if you see, is on the minority state. Minority status is conferred on the AMU. So the next question that comes from the perspective of the Constitution is whether those admissions that happened from 1967 onwards until this time, what is the status of those admissions and the administrative aspect of the university? If you see, as per the doctrine of prospective overruling, whenever the Supreme Court judgment comes, from the day the Supreme Court judgment comes, only it has to be applied prospectively. Accordingly, if the Supreme Court judgment is now going to say that it has conferred the minority status, and of course, the Allahabad High Court judgment, 2006 judgment, has been referred to the other bench of the Supreme Court. So we have to wait and watch what other rules or guidelines are going to come with respect to minority status, which will become the state of law in the country, because it's a constitutional bench judgment. So at the end of the day, to conclude, those universities which were established based on religious identity or linguistic identity definitely will be categorized as a minority institution. The question comes whether those minority institutions has to be administered by the minority, or it can be administered by anybody. So the criteria of administration doesn't arise. Going by the doctrine of pith and substance, the substance of the institution is to have a minority character. Accordingly, the constitutional bench has conferred the minority character today, overruling the judgment of 1967.
Right. Sir, another question that comes to our mind is you spoke about the reservation policies. How will this ruling impact AMU's reservation policies now going forward?
Minorities have always been conferred with a special reservation policy. So entire reason why an institution should be categorized as a minority is because if you go by the preamble to the Constitution, we are very clear that India is a secular socialist. And considering that fact, minorities has been given a special status under the Constitution. And if you see Article 30, we have to visit, of course, we'll have a detailed discussion later. If you go and check the Constitutional Assembly debates of the founding fathers and mothers of our Indian Constitution, we understand the spirit of why Article 30 came. The Article 30 came because we need to protect the rights of the minority. And of course, people in the power may not agree. As you said, as we were discussing with the correspondent, Sunil Prabhu, he also mentioned rightly, NDTV correspondent mentioned rightly, the whether to support or not the minority may be a political power, popular sovereignty.
Right.
But now in the case of polarization, that is different. But coming to the Constitution doesn't work according to the politician. Constitution always our Indian Constitution is rule of law, not rule by law. It's a rule of law. When it's rule of law, the rule of law as enunciated and guaranteed by our Constituent Assembly as part of our Indian Constitution will work. That has worked now in the Supreme Court. And by the way, 1967 judgment has been overruled now. Once it is overruled, prospectively, all the benefits that are applicable to a minority institution will squarely apply to a minority institution. So the question comes here, central university or minority university, AMU being a central university doesn't bar itself as a minority university.
Correct.
The question comes only with respect to reservation. So there is a special reservation for minority, which will start applying right now with respect to the AMU from now on after the Supreme Court judgment.
All right. We have also joined by Professor Faizan Mustafa, constitutional expert and former faculty of law, Aligarh Muslim University. Professor Faizan Mustafa, welcome to NDTV. Your first reaction on this particular verdict?
I have been teaching constitutional law for decades, and Supreme Court has been liberalizing the civil liberties. The only bad judgment on Article 30 was the 1967 Aziz Basha judgment. And therefore, as a student of constitutional law, I feel happy that the Supreme Court has overruled its own erroneous judgment, because this judgment was an exception to the liberal jurisprudence Supreme Court has developed and evolved in respect of Article 30. Remember, we were drafting our constitution in the wake of partition, and one has to salute the visionary founders of our constitution who incorporated minority rights under Article 30. The whole question was, how do we decide whether an institution is a minority institution? In 1967, in Aziz Basha, Supreme Court said, you have to decide looking at the law which has been passed. And since in this case, this law was passed in 1920 by the Governor General in Council, they said it is the Governor General in Council who established the university. And therefore, the controversy about the meaning of term establishment. Now the majority of Supreme Court bench has decided that establishment should not be narrowly constructed. It should be widely interpreted. It is a constitutional provision. We need to look at the antecedent history of that institution, because the question of incorporation by law will arise much later. In this case, in 1877, MAO College was established by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. And from 1877 to 1920, it has been a long journey. The government of India had asked us to give 30 lakh rupees, which I got calculated in 2005. It was about 500 crore in terms of value or so. Its value must have increased to 800 crore. And you would be surprised, I had seen hundreds of receipts of just 1 penny to make those 30 crores. So Supreme Court laying down the law now largely settles the question. With 1968 judgment gone, I believe the Allahabad High Court judgment has become inconsequential. And with Allahabad High Court judgment becoming inconsequential, the 1981 amendment occupies the field. And in 1981, Parliament has very clearly clarified that this university was not established by the Parliament, by the government. It was established by the Muslims of India as an institution of their choice. It was merely incorporated, so it was a legal device. They could not have become a university without invoking the sovereign power. And if a sovereign power is invoked, that in itself cannot change the character of the institution. If you need to look at the character of the institution, look who took the initiative.
Okay.
Look who collected the money, for whose benefit the institution was made. So I believe that referring this matter to 3-judge bench is not going to have any adverse consequence on Aligarh Muslim University. It's a comprehensive win for Aligarh Muslim University, and it's a comprehensive win for all those who stand for the minority rights under the Indian Constitution.
Right. Dr. Satya Kumar wants to make a point. Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Exactly. Concurring with the views of the professor, he's been teaching constitution for a long time, decades. In fact, I've seen him in the Nalsar. I've observed his lectures. And considering the fact that we have doctrine of eclipse operating, if you see when this university was established in 1920, at that time the Government of India Act 1935 came later. They did not cater to the concept of this minority institution and all those concepts. But when our founding fathers, when they borrowed the constitution from many countries, they visualized a country where minority has to be protected. That is the pith and substance, doctrine of pith and substance, where minorities has to be protected. Whether political power agrees or not, or political power may be appeasing the minority, that is different. But coming back to the constitution, when it coming back to the constitutionalism, coming back to the constitutional morality, looking at the preamble to the constitution, it sets the context to say Article 30, which is the rule of law, state of law, clearly says we have to protect the minority. The question comes whether AMU is a minority institution or not, as simple as that. Whenever these minority institutions are tried to be brought, or where the state has tried to categorize the minority institution into the, when they wanted to disturb the minority institutions, the Supreme Court always stood back, not just for the minority institution of AMU alone, even linguistic minorities or any of the minority institution. The Supreme Court time and again has said what is the state of law of the Constitution of India. The state of law always protect the minority. By overturning the judgment of 1967, by applying the doctrine of prospective overruling, now on, the university will be classified as a minority institution, which has no ground for personal bias, no ground for political bias. At the end of the day, now it is a minority institution. Now on, all the benefits of minority institution will apply. The next question is whether the minority institution should be administered by the minority. That is not the criteria mentioned under Article 30. It only talks about administration. It does not say administration has to be by a minority.
Correct. Professor Faizan Mustafa, your final comments on this before we head into a break.
The judgment of 1968 had also said that Muslims were not administering Aligarh Muslim University.
Yeah.
Now, what the Chief Justice bench has laid down, that minority need not entirely administer. You have to understand, a backward community is there. It may not have the expertise. Say if I am setting up a medical college, I may not have neurosurgeons in my own community to administer it. And therefore, I need to take the help of other communities. What they are saying that if you have established and you are administering, if some presence of yours is there, that is good enough. What is your intent? Why you have established that institution? What is the purpose? For whose benefit? That is the test which Supreme Court has laid down. And these tests, we had argued in the Supreme Court also, were also based on the earlier judgments of the Supreme Court. So when Supreme Court is laying down the indicia of a minority institution, it is in a way nullifying the entire 1967 judgment. Even if they don't say it explicitly, here they have said that we are overruling. Assuming they had not said it, this law they have laid down indirectly overrules that. Now, since it was not an appeal, Aligarh's appeal is already pending before a 3-judge bench. This bench could have only told us what is the law. They have told us the law. Now for the determination and application of that law, you have to go to a 3-judge bench, which is a normal procedure.
Right.
I consider it to be a huge victory for civil liberties in the country in general.
All right. As Professor Faizan Mustafa says, the another bench is going to be constituted, and the new bench will decide on the 2006 Allahabad High Court order. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being a part of this discussion. We'll slip into a very short break now. More news and updates on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
फक्त करप्शन फर्स्ट आमचा अजेंडा आहे नेशन फर्स्ट
घोषणा आणि जनतेचे पैसे लुटणं
कट कमिशन आणि करप्शनला आमच्याकडे थारा नाही त्यांचा परिवारवाद आमचा महाराष्ट्रवाद
महाराष्ट्रामध्ये 1,75,000 जागा रिक्त आहेत पण का भरत नाही राज्याची जनतेच्या घमाच्या पैशाची तिजोरी लुटण्यासाठी हे सरकार आहे
पूर्वीच्या सरकारच्या काळामध्ये निधी देताना त्यांना असं वाटायचं की त्यांच्याच खिशातले पैसे चालले शेतकऱ्यांना मोफत वीज देण्याचं काम आपल्या सरकारने सुरू केलं
I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai. India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV Summit outlined his vision for the India Century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बने.
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
Not just Indians trusting India's leadership, but the global South especially trusting India's leadership.
Permanent seat on the UN Security Council is something that should be India's right.
Canada is concerned, I think there are some very specific issues. I think a lot of people know that.
AI is going to be one of the most important, drivers.
It's a very exciting time for India, Indian cinema as well at a global level.
NDTV World Summit was more than just a conversation. It was a confluence of ideas poised to shape our global future.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president.
Donald triumphs. What does Trump's win mean for America, for the world, for the wars, and for India-US relations? Non-stop coverage on NDTV. Top analysts and voices from the ground. Extensive coverage on NDTV.
Hello and welcome to India Sense, where I speak with global opinion makers.
The United States has made a strategic decision over the last 20 years to move closer to India.
Though a $7 trillion economy seems a perfectly conceivable number.
If you want to be a national party, it's that you sort of accept the way the world is rather than want to endlessly hark back to how it was.
Modi is promoting the digitization of the economy, which is accelerating.
Welcome back. A brawl broke out between the BJP MLAs and the marshals of the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly again after the speaker directed eviction of the opposition members who had then stormed the well during their protests over the special status resolution. So there was a storm over statehood that continued on the third day of the assembly as well. Remember, yesterday also, many opposition leaders there, they were in fact evicted from the assembly, and yet again today 2 leaders, they were marshalled out. This is the third and the final day of the assembly, and the entire storm was over the statehood that the National Conference had raised in the assembly. And in fact, my colleague Neeta joins us to get us more on this. Neeta, this is the last day of the session, and yet again there was ruckus. Just break it down for us.
Yes, it's a continuous third day when the Bharatiya Janata Party members again created a ruckus in the House, and today again 15 of them were marshalled out of the assembly as they attempted to protest in the well of the House. Again, you know, the brother of Engineer Rashid, Abdul Rahim Sheikh had, again he was protesting about implementation of Article 370 and Article 35A when the BJP members said that this cannot go on, and that's when the scuffle again started. The speaker, Mr. Rathar, asked them if they want to protest, they should go outside the House, but when they did not listen, the 15 MLAs were marshalled out. Since last 3 days, this kind of a face-off has been happening in Jammu and Kashmir. Since the time the Chief Minister has, passed a resolution in the House asking Centre to restore the statehood. The resolution which is passed by the House stated that there is going to be a dialogue between Centre and State, and a way is going to be worked together. Way forward is going to be worked together as to how the statehood is going to be restored and how the constitutional guarantees are going to be restored. But the PDP and AIP has been saying that it's a half-hearted resolution and they need to amend it, they need to redefine it. So obviously the ruckus was going on. But yesterday again, a Langate MLA, Engineer Rashid's brother, again took out a banner, and that's when the ruckus blew out of proportion. Yesterday also BJP MLAs were marshalled out, and today again same scenes were repeated in the assembly of the House. Mind you, this game is being played as in the JNK assembly here in Delhi also. Yesterday, the former minister, Mrs. Smriti Irani, also, targeted Congress and asked Congress that they need to spell out where do they stand as far as Article 370 is concerned. We also need to, remember that elections in 2 states, Maharashtra and Jharkhand, are going to soon take place. So obviously politics is also being played in that span also. So, but as far as JK Assembly is concerned, again for the third day, consecutive day, same scene, same ruckus was repeated inside the well. Back to you.
All right, Neeta Sharma, thank you very much for getting us all the latest. So, third day and the ruckus continued in the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly there. Now, as politics heats up in Kerala's Wayanad ahead of the Lok Sabha bypoll, Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, he alleged that Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra is contesting the seat with the backing of Jamaat-e-Islami, a political Islamist organization. Mr. Vijayan, in his Facebook post, he claimed that the Wayanad by-election has, and I quote, exposed the Congress party's secular mask completely. Kerala Chief Minister intensified his attack on the Congress, alleging that its General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi is contesting the Wayanad Lok Sabha by-election with the backing of Jamaat-e-Islami.
You can't comment on such things. She's a national leader. Voters are different. Anyone who desire to vote can vote to any individual. Congress party believes in taking every section of the society. But I do not know much about that, whatever the Kerala CM is quoting. Kerala CM is afraid of losing his election in a very big way. That is why he is commenting. The entire state and the Wayanad people are appreciating the stand of Srimati Priyanka Gandhi. That is why they are jealous of her.
केरल के मुख्यमंत्री द्वारा जो कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी के हैं, कांग्रेस की इतनी बड़ी नेता पर ये आरोप लगाना कि जमाते इस्लामी का सपोर्ट ले रही हैं, ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी आरोप नहीं लगा रही है, ये वो पार्टी आरोप लगा रही है जो कांग्रेस की कई जगह पे पोस्टर में आप साथ में भी दिखेंगे। तो ऐसी स्थिति में प्रियंका वडेरा जी और कांग्रेस दोनों एक्सपोज हो रही है।
Meanwhile, the Haveri police station in Karnataka registered an FIR against BJP MP Tejasvi Surya for a false claim that a farmer in the district died by suicide after having his land claimed by the Waqf board. According to this FIR registered, Tejasvi Surya, he claimed that a farmer identified as Rudrappa Chanappa Balikai died by suicide after he found out that his land was taken over by Waqf, and blamed the Chief Minister Siddaramaiah and Minister B.S. Zamir Ahmad Khan and have unleashed catastrophic effect in Karnataka in that post. And my colleague Pratibha joins us to get us more on this. Pratibha, just break it down for us. What is this entire controversy?
The controversy erupted when Tejasvi Surya, the BJP MP, took to social media platform X to suggest that there is a news article talking about a farmer who allegedly committed suicide mainly because of the Waqf controversy. And this has been on for quite some time, where several farmlands have been allegedly taken over by the Waqf board. And this post was flagged off as a fake post by the Congress government, and an FIR was registered instantly with respect to not just the BJP MP, but also the news channel that published this. And in the meantime, the Congress has been harping on Tejasvi Surya's history, stating that this is an alleged attempt by Tejasvi Surya in several instances that they have seen where he has been flagging fake news and talking about tarnishing the image of the Congress government. In the meantime, Tejasvi Surya as well has taken to the social media platform and suggested that this is a mistake and that he should not be relying on news agencies like this. While an apology has been made by Tejasvi Surya, we still need to see how this investigation will be taken forward as far as fake news in the state of Karnataka is concerned.
All right, Pratibha Raman, thank you very much for getting us the latest in that story. Meanwhile, the battleground Maharashtra, the battle for Maharashtra, it is intensifying, and the Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar, he spoke exclusively with NDTV, and he spoke about the Mahayuti poll strategy. He also, in fact, has backed caste census demand. Ajit Pawar, he also mentioned that caste census should be done once, and he also added that he doesn't understand why politicians politicize that issue. Listen in.
आपको लगता है कि जातिगत जनगणना की आवश्यकता है, जिसकी बात राहुल गांधी हर वक्त करते आ रहे हैं?
एक दफ़ा होनी चाहिए। एक दफ़ा क्या होता है, ये पॉलिटिशियन लोग हमारे जैसे उसका इशू निकाल के कुछ ना कुछ लोगों के मन में, दिमाग में कुछ ना कुछ डालने की कोशिश करते हैं। वर्ड कहा जा रहा है, पूरी दुनिया कहा जा रही है, और हम उसमें ही फंसे हैं। तो एक दफ़ा लोगों को भी सबको समझना चाहिए कि एग्जैक्ट कौन सी कास्ट कितनी है, फिर जो पिछड़ी है उनको कितनी मदद करनी चाहिए, बजट में कितना प्रावधान करना चाहिए, ये समझ में आएगा। अभी किसी को भी मालूम नहीं कौन कितने हैं, कौन कितने हैं। सब बोलते हैं हम इतने परसेंट है, हम इतने परसेंट है, हम इतने परसेंट है। सबका सबका परसेंटेज आपने टोटल मारा तो परसेंटेज आता है 150, 160 और 100% होना चाहिए।
And after a massive controversy and alarm over a report claiming that 25 tigers in Ranthambore National Park are missing, now park authorities, they have told NDTV that 10 of these tigers have been accounted for. On Monday, Rajasthan's chief wildlife warden, Pawan Kumar Upadhyay, he said that 25 tigers in Ranthambore National Park had gone missing over the last year. A 3-member committee to investigate the disappearance was appointed, which would review monitoring records and recommend action if any lapses by park officials are found. This step was taken after repeated correspondence regarding the tigers and got no response from the park authorities. The focus was on finding 14 tigers that had not been seen since between May 17 and September 30th of this year. But within 2 days of this news breaking, NDTV has learnt that 10 of the tigers, they have been traced through camera trap records.
They found evidence of 10 tigers is what I spoke to the forest department's, authorities there at Ranthambore Tiger Reserve. And they have said that after this order was given and a probe committee was set up, a 3-people probe committee to look into this issue of these alleged 25 missing tigers, that they have found evidence of 10 tigers on the camera traps. Camera traps are the cameras that are put into the park to monitor tiger movement. Now, what I've heard from my sources is that the monsoon carried on quite late this year, and because of that, they weren't able to put up these camera traps till quite recently. But in that time, there was, there was some concern over the fact that evidence of these tigers had not been seen. And then this report and this committee was set up to look into this matter of the missing tigers. But 10 of those tigers have been traced. Also, my sources have pointed out that in this list of 25, 4 of the tigers are aged between 17 to 21 years of age, which is really not an age that wild tigers live to. They live till 14 to 15 years of age. So all in all, at least over 10 tigers, yes, are missing currently, and this is being looked into by the Forest Department and by authorities. The NTCA, the National Tiger Conservation Authority, may also, get into this and also ask for its own report into the matter. The concerns are that there could be some, territorial fights, of course, because it said that this park is has a very, very healthy population of tigers, and it not enough area to support it in terms of very good habitat for tigers. So around 80 tigers is what the last census said. In fact, around 88 is what it said.
And the news of Trump's return to White House is already affecting the shifting sands of the simmering West Asia conflict. Israel has intensified strikes and raids in both Lebanon and Gaza and is facing far more resistance. It is being seen as a hint at push to finish Middle East war before Trump's term even begins. Now, despite being marred in controversies and scandals, facing daily protests and now accusations from the ousted defense minister, Netanyahu's all-gas and no-brakes approach seems to have found a new lease of life. This week's escalation signals that Netanyahu may very well seize the opportunity to strike at Iran before Trump's plans to usher in peace are set in motion. The statistics, it reveals that in the latest Israeli airstrikes, they have killed reportedly more than 100 across Gaza and Lebanon only in the last 24 hours. At least 50 Palestinians, they have been killed in Israeli airstrikes across Gaza, with at least 42 in the besieged north. Over in Lebanon, at least 53 have been reportedly killed and another 161 wounded in raids across the country. Time for a very short break. More news and updates on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
Devotees perform Chhath Puja. Chhath Puja is a festival in which devotees worship and make offerings to the setting and rising sun. Devotees especially take the fast and worship the sun for the long lives and well-being of their family members, also praying for their expectations and attempts to come true.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
we reached an agreement on patrolling. We have gone back to where the situation was in 2020, and we can say with that the disengagement process with China, you can say, has been completed. The understanding, to my knowledge, is that we will be able to do the patrolling which we were doing in 2020.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country. Number 1 in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust.
तालियों के साथ हम स्वागत करेंगे आदरणीय मोदी जी का। छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज की।
घोषणा आणि जनतेचे पैसे लुटणं.
कट कमिशन आणि करप्शनला आमच्याकडे थारा नाही. त्यांचा परिवारवाद आमचा महाराष्ट्रवाद.
महाराष्ट्रामध्ये 1,75,000 जागा रिक्त पण का भरत नाही. राज्याची जनतेच्या घमाच्या पैशाची तिजोरी लुटण्यासाठी हे सरकार आहे.
पूर्वीच्या सरकारच्या काळामध्ये निधी देताना त्यांना असं वाटायचं की त्यांच्याच खिशातले पैसे चालले. शेतकऱ्यांना मोफत वीज देण्याचं काम आपल्या सरकारने सुरू केलं.
I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
It was the grand launch of NDTV World by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. NDTV World, as he laid out his vision for the India century at the NDTV World Summit.
ऐसी सदी जिसमें भारत के प्रयासों से दुनिया में स्थिरता आए.
In the presence of those who are shaping our future.
मेरी तरफ से आपको ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं हैं.
NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always bustling. It's literally a city that never sleeps.
And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV Summit outlined his vision for the India century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बने.
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
Not just Indians trusting India's leadership, but the global South especially trusting India's leadership.
Permanent seat on the UN Security Council is something that should be India's right.
Canada is concerned, I think there are some very specific issues. I think a lot of people know that.
AI is going to be one of the most important, drivers.
It's a very exciting time for India, Indian cinema as well at a global level.
NDTV World Summit was more than just a conversation. It was a confluence of ideas poised to shape our global future.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president.
Donald triumphs. What does Trump's win mean for America, for the world, for the wars, and for India-US relations? Non-stop coverage on NDTV. Top analysts and voices from the ground.
extensive coverage on NDTV.
Hello and welcome to India Sense, where I speak with global opinion makers.
The United States has made a strategic
A big Supreme Court verdict on AMU's minority status. Supreme Court overturns the previous order on AMU. The 1967 order said that AMU cannot claim minority status. Supreme Court also mentions that the AMU minority status will be decided by a new bench. And ruckus continues in the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly on the third day as well. A face-off takes place over the special status resolution. It is Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan versus Priyanka Gandhi Vadra over the Wayanad battle. Chief Minister says that Priyanka is contesting with the support of the Jamaat. The Haveri police station registers an FIR against BJP MP Tejasvi Surya for a false claim that a farmer in the district died by suicide after having his land claimed by Waqf board. The air quality in Delhi continues to worsen, with multiple areas reaching severe levels this morning. Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Osama Shab. The big story that we are tracking is the Supreme Court's verdict on AMU's minority status. The Supreme Court has in fact deferred the judgment on the Aligarh Muslim University issue, saying that another bench would be constituted to decide on a 2006 order by the Allahabad High Court, which had overturned the minority status of the educational institution. It was a 4:3 judgment on AMU. The Supreme Court has now opened the door for AMU to claim that minority status. The Supreme Court, remember, has overturned the previous judgment on this issue. The 1967 judgment, Supreme Court says, had denied, the judgment had in fact denied the minority status to AMU, and the Supreme Court has now asked to constitute a new bench to decide on this particular issue. And my colleague Sunil Prabhu joins us from the Supreme Court. Sunil, just break it down for us. What does this judgment mean?
Well, this is a very historic judgment, 4:3. And I spoke to the lawyer who was actually, one of the petitioners in this case, and this is Kapil Sibal, who said this is a reference bench. So don't expect that a determination of whether Aligarh Muslim University is a minority could have been decided by the seven-judge bench. This was to determine the issue. 4 judges have determined the issue very categorically. They have, turned down the 1967 judgment. As you know, the history of the Aligarh Muslim University, and to break down to our viewers, in 1967, 5 judges bench had held very categorically that AMU was not a minority institution. Subsequently, in 1981, the Aligarh Muslim University was amended by an act of parliament, and it was made minority in character. And then, of course, later on, the Aligarh Muslim University gave reservation for minorities in 50%, especially in medical education.
All right, Sunil, I'll have to interrupt you there for just a short bit. In fact, Shadan Farasad, the lawyer, he's in fact speaking at the moment. Let's listen into what he has to say.
और वो एक छोटी जजेस की खंडपीठ डिटरमिन करेगी, लेकिन जिस तरह का टेस्ट ले डाउन किया गया है वो एमयू की हिस्ट्री और एस्टैब्लिशमेंट के हिसाब से चांसेस काफी हाई हैं कि एमयू विल बी फाउंड टू बी अ माइनॉरिटी इंस्टीट्यूशन. लास्ट क्वेश्चन एंड देन यू कैन आस्क मिस्टर भाटिया आल्सो. क्या मानक तय किए गए हैं? मानक तय किए गए हैं। पहली कि व्हाट वाज द हिस्ट्री ऑफ द इंस्टीट्यूशन, प्राइमरी डॉक्यूमेंट्स क्या थे उस इंस्टीट्यूशन को फॉर्मेशन में, फंड्स और कॉर्पस कहां से आए थे, और इंस्टीट्यूशन किस कम्युनिटी ने अपने आप को नर्चर करने के लिए वो इंस्टीट्यूशन एस्टैब्लिश किया था, अपनी पढ़ाई, अपनी एजुकेशन, अपने प्रोफेशनल लेवल को इंप्रूव करने के लिए वो एस्टैब्लिश किया गया था। और इन सारी चीजों को एक होलिस्टिक तरह से देखना है, एक टेक्निकल तरह से नहीं देखना है। और चाहे उसको एक्चुअल जो इनकॉर्पोरेशन है वो चाहे किसी सोसाइटी रजिस्ट्रेशन एक्ट में हुआ हो या वो चाहे किसी लेजिस्लेचर की एक्ट के थ्रू हुआ हो, वो मानने नहीं रखता है। मानने ये रखता है कि रियल इंटेंट क्या था, वो इंस्टीट्यूशन एक माइनॉरिटी को एस्टैब्लिश, माइनॉरिटी ने अपने लिए अपने आप को एजुकेशनली एडवांस करने के लिए एस्टैब्लिश किया था या नहीं।
आज की डेट में इसका स्टेटस क्या रहेगा?
I will, the other questions you can ask Mr. Bhatia. I'll just answer this last question and then you can ask Mr. Bhatia.
आज की डेट में जब 81 क्वैश हो गया,
81 क्वैश नहीं हुआ, 81 इरेलेवेंट हो गया।
इरेलेवेंट हो गया,
करेक्ट।
अजीत बादशाह क्वैश हो गया।
हाँ।
तो आज की डेट में एमयू का स्टेटस क्या है?
आज की डेट में एमयू का स्टेटस मेरे हिसाब से डी जूरे इज अप फॉर डिटर्मिनेशन, डी फैक्टो इज माइनॉरिटी।
ओके,
थैंक यू।
All right, let's go across to Sunil Prabhu, who's outside the Supreme Court. Sunil, you heard what Shahdan Farasat was mentioning. He mentioned right at the very end that it basically means, that verdict basically means that this institution is de facto a minority institution. Just elaborate on what exactly he meant by that.
Yeah, so that's what exactly I've been saying for the last 1 hour, if you recall, just as the verdict came out, stopping short of calling it, giving it a minority status. And as I explained to you, Kapil Sibal, the petitioner for this case, who argued before the 7-judge bench, speaking to me immediately after the verdict was delivered, has said very categorically that this was a reference bench. All the details, as has been pointed out, all the prerequisites that are required for determining have been spelled out by this reference bench, and it's in this context we'll have to wait and see now when that bench is constituted, how they look at the AMU. So as I was giving you the history, 1967, 5-judge bench had held that AMU was not minority in character. In 1981, a subsequent act was made where it said very categorically that this was a minority in status. Subsequently, there was a reservation given to the Muslim minorities, in particular, for giving postgraduate medical seats. And it's in that backdrop that the government, the Allahabad High Court had struck it. So it's on that basis now that the Supreme Court, 4:3, 3 judges dissenting, 4 of them Chief Justice of India in a majority judgment with his next Chief Justice who's going to succeed him, Justice Sanjeev Khanna, as well as Justice Pardiwala and Justice Manoj Mishra, have said and laid down the test of how you decide a minority status. So it's in that backdrop now that the Supreme Court has given that verdict, and it will now be a defining moment for minority institutions in particular. What was the intent? What was the character? How was AMU set up? Because there's a whole historic context right from our freedom struggle on the formation of the Aligarh Muslim University. That has to be looked at before deciding whether it is a minority status or not.
Right, Sunil, going forward, will this verdict have any effect on the autonomy of the institution now, or institutions like the Aligarh Muslim University?
No, it will have no impact at all. In fact, at present, Aligarh Muslim University is a minority institution. It will continue to be a minority institution, and that is how we will have to wait and see how things proceed.
All right. In fact, Sunil, another question that arises regarding this particular issue is, all right, we'll try and connect with Sunil Prabhu in just a short while from now. In fact, what basically this entire verdict is all about, I just have to mention that the Supreme Court's decision, it will have significant implication on AMU's autonomy and ability to provide education to the minority communities. This court's verdict, it is also going to set a precedent for other educational institutions that are seeking minority status. So that is something that the Supreme Court has kept in mind while saying that a new bench is going to decide on AMU's minority status. Remember, the AMU Act of 1920 founded the university and subsequent amendments they were made, which had basically led to a debate on the minority status of this particular institution. Remember, in 1967, the Supreme Court ruled that the AMU, in 1967, a court ruled that AMU was not a minority institution. But 1981, amendment to the AMU Act redefined this university as an institution that was established by Muslims of India. Now, the current case before the Supreme Court, which the Supreme Court was hearing, it revolved around the university's reservation policy, as Sunil Prabhu was mentioning there, which basically allows the university to reserve 50% of the seats in postgraduate medical courses for Muslim candidates. The Allahabad High Court, remember, had struck down that policy in the early 2000s, which has led to this particular appeal in the Supreme Court. And remember, this Aligarh Muslim University's minority status, it has been a contentious issue for quite some time. And the Supreme Court, it is set to deliver, it is now set to deliver, a fresh bench is now set to deliver that verdict that is going to be constituted later. The university's status as a minority institution, it had been challenged. What the court said, what the top court has said, that it overturned that 1967, that particular judgment, 1967 judgment by the Allahabad High Court. It, remember, had denied that minority status to AMU, and that particular judgment, that has been overturned by the Supreme Court now. In fact, many have been arguing that it doesn't meet the criteria due to its establishment and governance by a parliamentary stature, to which the Supreme Court has clearly mentioned that it had basically said that the AMU, the university, it isn't defined by the fact that it is being governed by non-Muslim entities in this particular case as well. All right, I'm currently joined by Alok Srivastava, an advocate of the Supreme Court. Sir, welcome to NDTV. Just your first reaction on this particular verdict by the Supreme Court, and how do you see it in panning out in the near future now?
See, personally speaking, if you want to know my viewpoint, I am slightly against the majority decision which came out today.
Okay.
Because my view is that if there is a university which is centrally funded, there has to be uniformity, and it has to be in the mainstream. There can't be any minority status. So I go more with the Ajit Pawar judgment, which was 1967 constitutional bench judgment. But a very important point is, which we must understand, some of the media, the channels ran the news that Supreme Court has declared that AMU has the minority status. This issue has been left to a 3-judges bench. The 3-judges bench will decide whether AMU will have minority status or not. But one thing is sure, that Honorable Supreme Court, by a majority decision of 4:3, has overruled this Ajit Pawar judgment. And the Supreme Court has categorically said a very technical point. Supreme Court has said that if it is established by minority, that is relevant.
All right, Mr. Srivastava, we'll quickly come back to you. I'll have to interrupt you. I'm very sorry for that. We'll go back to Sunil Prabhu, who's joined by Shadan Farasad there. Sunil, please go ahead.
Thanks. I'm joined by somebody who's going to give us a good perspective. Please explain to us, and I just spoke to Mr. Kapil Sibal, who also argued for the petitioner, saying that this was a reference bench. So can you explain to them what exactly does this judgment mean, and what is it envisage?
So what this judgment does is that it is by a majority of 4:3. It says that the Aziz Basha judgment of the Supreme Court of 1967, which said that AMU is not a minority institution, it sets that judgment aside. So therefore, that finding judicial, that AMU is not a minority institution, is gone. To overcome that finding, in the early 80s, a parliamentary amendment was passed. So therefore, that parliamentary amendment has become irrelevant. Now the question is, on a factual basis, given the test laid down by the court itself today, on what is the indices on which a minority institution
They have also traced it back to the history and what was the...
So the test include what is the history, who put the money in, who are the people involved, which community it was meant to primarily help. all those aspects are part of the test, which at least in my personal view and assessment, AMU should hopefully be able to meet. But that is a test which will be applied to the facts of AMU whenever that smaller bench sits and then makes that determination. But today I think is a big day in terms of AMU's history and legal entity and identity, because that 60s judgment of Aziz Basha was something which was a huge problem for its minority status, and that does not exist anymore.
So the big question is that the Supreme Court, the 7-judge bench, has stopped short of giving it a minority character.
That is correct, because that's a factual determination in light of the test laid down, which will be done by a smaller bench. But of course, it has moved in that direction by setting aside the judgment which had held it to be non-minority. And also the tests which have been laid down, at least it seems to me, prima facie, that hopefully whenever that adjudication is made, AMU will have a very good case of making before the court that we meet those
because the 4 judges have given the very clear guidelines.
Correct.
The big question is now, what is AMU? Does it still remain a minority status? That 50% reservation that had been given for Muslim postgraduates in medical.
So today the status of AMU is in effect, judicially to be decided by the smaller bench, right? That is where we de jure. But de facto, of course, in the sense that whatever was continuing, because there was a stay operating over the earlier judgment as well of the Allahabad High Court, and that position de facto continues. So you can say de facto is minority, but the actual de jure status is yet to be determined by the court, by the smaller bench, whenever that matter is heard.
Thank you so much for taking the time here. You have a very categorical statement and understanding. If you have any more doubts, Osama, I'm ready now to clarify, because I was wanting to get him to explain to our viewers about this.
All right, Sunil Prabhu, thank you very much for getting us all the details there, and also, in fact, getting Shadhan Farasat to get us all the vital questions that you had. In fact, moving on to our other big story that we are tracking, a brawl broke out between the BJP MLAs and marshals of the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly. This after the Speaker directed eviction of the opposition members who had stormed the well during their protest over the special status resolution. It is the third day of the assembly there, Jammu and Kashmir Assembly there, and you can see on your screens the second day the marshals had in fact evicted some of the MLAs there, and today another ruckus took place with the members of the opposition party there raising banners, raising letters, and the Speaker then asked the marshals to in fact evict these opposition members. So the ruckus continues in the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly over the statehood. Remember, it was passed by the Deputy Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, and the ruckus is over the Article 370's abrogation there. And my colleague Neeta Sharma joins us live to get us more on this. Neeta, just break it down for us. What transpired in the Assembly today? It is the third day, as we understand.
Absolutely, it's the third day, and again the same ruckus continued. Yesterday we saw that brother of Engineer Rashid, who is an MLA from Langate, he took out a banner saying that Article 370 and Article 35A should be restored. So a scuffle broke down between him and the BJP MLAs led by the leader of opposition, Mr. Sunil Sharma. Just to keep them apart, MLA from Handwara, Mr. Sajjad Lone, and MLA from Pulwama, Mr. Wahid Para, tried to, break them down, but despite that they fist fight started, and that's the reason why the Speaker of the House asked MLAs to be marshalled out. Similar situation was there today also. Again 15 of the MLAs were marshalled out again, but the kind of scenes that we are witnessing in the Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir is really sad, Osama, keeping in mind that the crime graph, the terror graph of Jammu and Kashmir has been rising steadily. Yesterday we saw a deadly attack in Kishtwar wherein 2 VDG members were murdered. The Kishtwar Tigers, claimed that they had murdered them. They were missing for last 3 days, and since then the ruckus was happening here. More so if these MLAs would have taken a time out to just to ask the government as to where these VDGs were, but that time was lost, and now their bodies have been recovered. So it's a sad day, but as far as the politics is concerned, the politics continues. The MLAs were asking the NC members that they have brought out a half-hearted resolution because in that resolution, the NC resolution states that discussions need to be done between centre and union territory MLAs. So a way should be charted out as to how the statehood is going to be restored and how constitutional guarantees are going to be restored as far as J&K is concerned. But both PDP and AIP, that is the Engineer Rashid party, were saying it's a half-hearted resolution. So on that, the ruckus was going on, and when this placard was pulled out by Langate MLA, it went out of control. Similar situation was there today also as far as NC is concerned. They say that the Chief Minister himself was here in Delhi. He met the Prime Minister, the Home Minister and even the Raksha Mantri, who reassured him that statehood would be restored and also all the constitutional guarantees would be restored. Similar opinion was also reflected when the LG gave his speech, his maiden speech in the House on Monday itself, that the government would be working together with the popular government to restore the statehood. But despite that, this ruckus was there for last 3 days, and today also we saw the similar incident. These MLAs were again marshalled out. So it's a sad day, but as far as politics is concerned, they need to play out their part also. Similar thought, similar sentiment was also voiced by former Minister of Bharatiya Janata Party, Mrs. Smriti Irani, here in Delhi also. She also asked the Congress High Command, in fact, to specify as to their stand on Article 370 and 35A. We have to remind our viewers that already, as far as Maharashtra and Jharkhand is concerned, so the politics is also being played as far as these two state elections are also concerned. Osama?
Neeta, when you specifically talk about the arguments that are being given by the National Conference as well as the opposition, the BJP there, what the National Conference says is that, look, the people of Jammu and Kashmir, they have rejected the idea that, rejected BJP and this entire abrogation of Article 370, while the BJP says that, look, in order to restore statehood, it is not in your control, it is ultimately down to the centre that is going to do it, and then why do you have to move this resolution in the first place? Just break it down that for us.
See, it's again all politics only. We had heard the Chief Minister himself saying that the government, that the party which had snatched away statehood from Jammu and Kashmir, snatched away, Reorganization Act, the Article 370 and Article 35A, you cannot bank on them that they would be giving
Neeta,
them
I'll have to
those
interrupt
rights
you there.
to
The Prime Minister, he's speaking in Maharashtra. In fact, Prime Minister Modi is holding his first rally in Dhule in Maharashtra. Let's listen in to what the Prime Minister has to say.
अपना आशीर्वाद दिया है। – 2014 के विधानसभा चुनाव में मैं आपके बीच धुले आया था। मैंने आपसे महाराष्ट्र में बीजेपी सरकार के लिए आग्रह किया था। आपने महाराष्ट्र में 15 साल के सियासी कुचक्र को तोड़कर बीजेपी को अभूतपूर्व जीत दिलाई थी और आज एक बार फिर मैं धुले की धरती पर आया हूं। धुले से ही मैं महाराष्ट्र में चुनाव अभियान की शुरुआत कर रहा हूं। आपका ये प्यार, ये अपार जन समर्थन, ये जन समूह, जितने लोग पंडाल में हैं उससे ज्यादा पंडाल के बाहर है। उधर तो उनको पर्दे भी खोल देने पड़े। ये जन समूह, ये उत्साह, ये उमंग वाकई अभिभूत कर देता है। हम सभी को, भाजपा को, महायुति को, महायुति के एक एक उम्मीदवार को आपके आशीर्वाद चाहिए। मैं आपको विश्वास दिलाता हूं, पिछले 2.5 वर्षों में महाराष्ट्र के विकास को जो गति मिली है, उसे रुकने नहीं दिया जाएगा। अगले 5 वर्ष महाराष्ट्र की प्रगति को एक नई ऊंचाई पर ले जाएंगे। महाराष्ट्र को जो सुशासन चाहिए, वो सिर्फ महायुति की सरकार ही दे सकती है। और उधर देखिए, महाअघाड़ी की गाड़ी में वैसे भी ना पहिए हैं, ना ब्रेक है, और ड्राइवर की सीट पर बैठने के लिए भी झगड़ा हो रहा है। और चारों तरफ से भांति भांति के हॉर्न सुनाई दे रहे हैं। साथियों, राजनीति में आने पर हर किसी का अपना एक लक्ष्य होता है। हम जैसे लोग जनता को ईश्वर का रूप मानते हैं, जनता की सेवा के लिए राजनीति में आए हैं। वही कुछ लोगों की राजनीति का आधार है लोगों को लूटना। जब लोगों को लूटने की नीयत वाले महाअघाड़ी जैसे लोग सरकार में आ जाते हैं, तो वो विकास ठप कर देते हैं। हर योजना में भ्रष्टाचार करते हैं। आपने महाअघाड़ी वालों के धोखे से बनी सरकार के 2.5 साल देखे हैं। इन लोगों ने पहले सरकार लूटी और फिर महाराष्ट्र के आप लोगों को भी लूटने में वो लग गए थे। इन लोगों ने मेट्रो परियोजनाओं को ठप कर दिया, वाढवण पोर्ट के काम में अड़ंगा लगा दिया, समृद्धि महामार्ग बनने में रुकावटें पैदा की। अघाड़ी वालों ने हर उस योजना पर रोक लगा दी जिसे महाराष्ट्र के लोगों का भविष्य निश्चित उज्जवल होने वाला था। साथियों, ये हालत तब बदले जब आपके आशीर्वाद से यहां महायुति की सरकार बनी। महायुति के 2.5 वर्षों में महाराष्ट्र ने विकास के नए रिकॉर्ड बनाए। शिंदे जी की कमान में 2.5 वर्षों में महाराष्ट्र को उसका गौरव वापस मिला है, विकास का भरोसा वापस मिला है। और इसलिए मैं महाराष्ट्र के मतदाताओं से आग्रहपूर्वक कहूंगा, आप सबको याद रखना है, भाजपा महायुती आहे तर गती आहे। महाराष्ट्राची प्रगति आहे। साथियों, मैं आज महायुति को बहुत बहुत बधाई देना चाहता हूं। महायुति ने महाराष्ट्र को नई समृद्धि देने वाला वचननामा जारी किया है। महायुति के 10 संकल्पों की बहुत चर्चा हो रही है। शिंदे जी, मेरे मित्र देवेंद्र फडणवीस जी और अजीत पवार जी ने जनता के सुझावों से ये शानदार वचननामा तैयार किया है। महायुतीचा वचननामा विकासाची वाढेल गती, महाराष्ट्राची होणार हमखास प्रगती। महायुति के इस वचननामे में, इस घोषणा पत्र में हर वर्ग की आर्थिक प्रगति की योजना है, समानता का भाव है, सुरक्षा का एहसास है और सबको साथ लेकर चलने का विश्वास है। इसमें महाराष्ट्र के भविष्य का रोड मैप है। मैं ऐसे जन कल्याणकारी वचननामे के लिए महाराष्ट्र की जनता को भी विशेष रूप से बधाई देता हूं। महायुति का वचननामा विकसित महाराष्ट्र का आधार बनेगा, विकसित भारत का आधार बनेगा। साथियों, यहां इतनी बड़ी संख्या में हमारी माताएं, बहनें, बेटियां आई है, दूर दूर तक मैं देख रहा हूं। विकसित महाराष्ट्र, विकसित भारत के लिए हमारी बहनों, बेटियों का जीवन आसान बनाना, उन्हें सशक्त करना बहुत जरूरी है। जब महिलाएं आगे बढ़ती हैं तो पूरा समाज तेजी से प्रगति करता है। इसलिए पिछले 10 वर्षों में केंद्र सरकार ने महिलाओं को केंद्र में रखकर अनेक बड़े बड़े फैसले लिए हैं। पिछली सरकारों ने सैनिक स्कूलों से लेकर काम के कई क्षेत्रों में महिलाओं का रास्ता रोका हुआ था। ये मोदी है, उसने वो सारे बंधन हटाए, महिलाओं को ज्यादा से ज्यादा क्षेत्रों में काम के अवसर दे दिए, सारे दरवाजे खोल दिए। हमने नारी शक्ति बंधन अधिनियम के जरिए विधानसभाओं और संसद में महिलाओं को आरक्षण का अधिकार दिया। शौचालय से लेकर गैस सिलेंडर तक हर योजना के केंद्र में हमारी माताएं, बहनें ही रही है। हमने जब इन योजनाओं को शुरू किया था तब कांग्रेस के लोग हमारा मजाक उड़ाते थे, लेकिन आज वही योजनाएं महिला सशक्तिकरण का पर्याय बन गई है। मुझे खुशी है कि महाराष्ट्र की महायुति सरकार भी हमारे विजन को आगे बढ़ा रही है। माताओं को, बहनों के लिए यहां अनेक योजनाएं शुरू की गई है। आज महाराष्ट्र में हर डॉक्यूमेंट पर माता का नाम अनिवार्य कर दिया गया है। महायुति सरकार के इस फैसले का हर किसी ने खुले दिल से स्वागत किया। मुझे खुशी है कि महाराष्ट्र पुलिस में 25,000 बेटियों की भर्ती से एक नया विश्वास पैदा होने वाला है, महिलाओं का सामर्थ्य बढ़ने वाला है और महिला सुरक्षा बढ़ेगी और बेटियों को रोजगार भी मिलेगा। साथियों, हमारी सरकार महिलाओं के सशक्तिकरण के लिए जो कदम उठा रही है वो कांग्रेस और उसके गठबंधन को बर्दाश्त नहीं हो रहा है। आप जानते हैं कि महायुति सरकार की माझी लाड़की बहन योजना, ये माझी लाड़की बहन योजना की सिर्फ महाराष्ट्र में नहीं, देश के हर कोने में चर्चा है। लेकिन कांग्रेस माझी लाड़की बहन योजना को बंद करवाने के लिए भांति भांति साजिशें रच रही है। कांग्रेस के इकोसिस्टम वाले लोग इस योजना के खिलाफ कोर्ट तक पहुंच गए हैं। कांग्रेस और उसके साथियों ने ठान लिया है कि अगर उन्हें सत्ता मिली तो सबसे पहले इस योजना को बंद कर देंगे। मैं जरा आपसे पूछना चाहता हूं, क्या महिलाओं के लिए ये योजना चलनी चाहिए कि नहीं चलनी चाहिए? महिलाओं को लाभ मिलना चाहिए कि नहीं मिलना चाहिए? महिलाओं को आगे बढ़ाने की योजनाएं चलनी चाहिए कि नहीं चलनी चाहिए? और इसलिए महाराष्ट्र के हर महिला को इन अगाड़ी वालों से सतर्क रहना है। ये लोग कभी नारी शक्ति को सशक्त होते नहीं देख सकते। पूरा महाराष्ट्र देख रहा है कांग्रेस और अगाड़ी वाले लोग अब महिलाओं को किस तरह गाली देने पर उतर आए हैं। कैसी कैसी अभद्र भाषा, कैसे कैसे कमेंट, महिलाओं को नीचा दिखाने की कोशिश। महाराष्ट्र की कोई माता बहन कभी भी अगाड़ी वालों के इस कृत्य को माफ नहीं कर सकती। साथियों, भाषा भी और मातृभाषा तो एक तरह से हमारी मां होती है। मुझे गर्व है कि हमारी सरकार ने मराठी भाषा को अभिजात भाषा का दर्जा दिया है। इस फैसले के बाद मुझे देश और दुनिया भर के मराठी भाषी लोगों के संदेश मिल रहे हैं। लोग इस फैसले से भावुक हैं। ये उनका वर्षों पुराना सपना था जिसे हमारी सरकार ने पूरा किया है। भाइयों और बहनों, मराठी भाषा को अभिजात भाषा का दर्जा मिले, ये दशकों से महाराष्ट्र के लोगों की इच्छा थी, मांग थी। कांग्रेस पार्टी ने महाराष्ट्र में भी राज किया है, केंद्र में भी राज किया है और केंद्र में महाराष्ट्र में एक साथ भी राज किया है, सरकारें चलाई। लेकिन मराठी को अभिजात भाषा का दर्जा मिले, इन्हें इसकी जरूरत नहीं लगी। इन्होंने हमेशा मराठी भाषा के सम्मान की मांग को अनदेखा किया। उन्हें अब भी परेशानी हो रही है। ये काम मोदी ने कैसे कर दिया? मोदी ने क्यों कर दिया? महाराष्ट्र के नाम पर राजनीति करने वाले अघाड़ी वालों का यही असली चेहरा है। साथियों, महाराष्ट्र में डबल इंजन सरकार ने कैसे काम किया है, ये आज पूरी दुनिया भी देख रही है। आज विदेशी निवेश में, नए अवसरों में महाराष्ट्र पहली पसंद है। लगातार 2 साल तक महाराष्ट्र विदेशी निवेश में नंबर 1 रहा है। इस साल के पहले 3 महीने में 50% से ज्यादा, 50% से ज्यादा विदेशी निवेश अकेले मेरे महाराष्ट्र में आया है। महाराष्ट्र को सभी निवेश परियोजनाओं में प्राथमिकता दी जा रही है। इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वाहन परियोजना, ग्रीन एनर्जी और सोलर प्रोजेक्ट, स्टील प्रोजेक्ट, ऐसे कितने ही प्रोजेक्ट महाराष्ट्र के अलग अलग हिस्सों में स्थापित किए जा रहे हैं। भारत का सबसे बड़ा पोर्ट, पूरे हिंदुस्तान का सबसे बड़ा, ये पोर्ट भी, बंदरगाह भी हमारे महाराष्ट्र में बन रहा है। इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के बड़े प्रोजेक्ट से महाराष्ट्र में नए अवसर तैयार हो रहे हैं। साथियों, और जिस दिन मैं वाडवन पोर्ट के शिलान्यास के लिए आया था, उस दिन हमारे देवेंद्र जी ने पब्लिक में एक इच्छा व्यक्त की थी। उन्होंने कहा था कि हिंदुस्तान का सबसे बड़ा बंदरगाह बन रहा है। मोदी जी इतना सारा कर रहे हो, हजारों करोड़ लगा रहे हो, तो वहां एक एयरपोर्ट भी बना देना। उस दिन तो मैं चुप रहा था, लेकिन भाइयों बहनों, जैसे ही आचार संहिता खत्म होगी, जैसे ही महाराष्ट्र में महायुति की शपथ विधि हो जाएगी, मैं महाराष्ट्र सरकार के साथ बैठ करके देवेंद्र जी की इच्छा कैसे पूरी हो, इस बात के लिए काम करूंगा। साथियों, हमारा ये धुएं का क्षेत्र औद्योगिक विकास का गढ़ रहा है, और अभी देवेंद्र जी ने धुएं का क्या बढ़िया वर्णन किया। देश में बहुत कम जिले हैं जिनको इतनी सारी सौगात एक ही इलाके में मिली होगी। ये टेक्सटाइल का भी बड़ा केंद्र है। और मुंबई दिल्ली इंडस्ट्रियल कॉरिडोर से भी जुड़ा हुआ है। धुले की कनेक्टिविटी यहां के विकास के लिए बहुत जरूरी है। इसलिए धुले के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और कनेक्टिविटी पर हजारों करोड़ रुपए खर्च किए जा रहे हैं। धुले सोलापुर हाईवे का काम जारी है। धुले इंदौर रेल मार्ग का काम स्वीकृत हो चुका है। इन सारी परियोजनाओं से यहां के युवाओं के लिए रोजगार के भी हजारों नए अवसर बने हैं। साथियों, महाराष्ट्र के किसानों को भी डबल इंजन सरकार में डबल फायदा मिला है। उन्हें पीएम किसान सम्मान निधि के 6,000 रुपये के साथ ही महायुति सरकार के नमो शेतकरी महासम्मान निधि के 6,000 रुपया अतिरिक्त मिलते हैं, यानी 12,000 रुपये की आर्थिक मदद मेरे महाराष्ट्र के किसान भाई बहनों के खाते में सीधी जाती है। अब एक कदम आगे बढ़ते हुए महायुति की सरकार ने इस राशि को 15,000 रुपये तक बढ़ाने की घोषणा की है। इसका बहुत बड़ा फायदा महाराष्ट्र के और मेरे धुले के किसानों को भी होगा। केंद्र सरकार ने पिछले 10 वर्षों में किसानों के लिए जो काम किए हैं, उनसे कांग्रेस के खोदे गए गड्ढों को भरने में काफी मदद मिली है। आज किसानों के पास फसल बीमा की सुरक्षा है। किसानों को सस्ती बिजली के लिए सोलर पंप दिए जा रहे हैं। किसान की फसलों की खरीदारी भी आज रिकॉर्ड स्तर पर हो रही है। फसलों पर एमएसपी के दाम भी लगातार बढ़ाए गए हैं। यही बीजेपी और महायुति का संकल्प भी है और हमारा किसान खुशहाल हो और देश समृद्ध बने। साथियों, यहां धुले और आसपास के क्षेत्र में बड़ी संख्या में मेरे आदिवासी भाई बहन रहते हैं। सूरत के तो हम पास पड़ते हैं जी, आपके बिल्कुल एकदम सीधे पड़ोसी है, और इसलिए मैं इस इलाके से भी काफी परिचित रहा। बीजेपी ने हमेशा सबका साथ सबका विकास की नीयत से काम किया है। इस संकल्प का प्रमुख हिस्सा हमारा आदिवासी समाज भी है। ये वो समाज है जिनका देश की आजादी में, देश के विकास में महत्वपूर्ण योगदान रहा है। लेकिन कांग्रेस और उसके साथियों ने कभी आदिवासी गौरव, आदिवासी स्वाभिमान पर ध्यान नहीं दिया। आदिवासी विरासत को न्याय मिले, आदिवासी युवाओं को बेहतर भविष्य मिले, क्या ये आपका अधिकार नहीं था? लेकिन इस काम में दशकों लग गए। जब अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी के नेतृत्व में बीजेपी की सरकार आई, तब अलग आदिवासी मंत्रालय बना। तब पहली बार आदिवासी हितों को, इस समाज की अपेक्षाओं को महत्व मिला। हमारी सरकार ने भगवान बिरसा मुंडा की जयंती पर जनजातीय गौरव दिवस की शुरुआत की है। इसका मकसद यही है कि आदिवासी परंपरा को पहचान मिले। इस बार 15 नवंबर से अगले 1 वर्ष तक हम भगवान बिरसा मुंडा की 150वीं जन्म जयंती मनाएंगे। हमारी सरकार देश भर में एकलव्य आवासीय विद्यालय भी बना रही है। इन विद्यालयों में हमारे आदिवासी बेटे बेटियां पढ़ रहे हैं। हमने जल, जंगल, जमीन का हक सुरक्षित किया। वन उपज का लाभ आदिवासी समाज को मिले, इसके लिए हमने इस समाज को उसके अधिकार दिए। बीजेपी के ही प्रयासों से पहली बार एक आदिवासी महिला द्रौपदी मुर्मू जी देश की पहली आदिवासी राष्ट्रपति बनी और पूरे देश ने देखा है कि कैसे कांग्रेस और उसके साथियों ने द्रौपदी मुर्मू जी को हराने के लिए पूरी शक्ति लगा दी थी। आए दिन ये लोग द्रौपदी जी का अपमान करते हैं और ये इनकी पुरानी आदत है। बाबा साहब आंबेडकर को हराने के लिए नेहरू समेत ने ताकत लगा दी थी। आज से 25-30 साल पहले बाबा साहब आंबेडकर को नीचा दिखाना ये कांग्रेस का रोज का काम था और वैसा ही उन्होंने द्रौपदी मुर्मू जी के साथ किया। साथियों, आज मैं आपको और पूरे देश को कांग्रेस और उसके साथियों की एक बहुत खतरनाक साजिश से आगाह करने के लिए आया हूं और इस आदिवासी क्षेत्र में आया हूं तब मेरा ये कर्तव्य बनता है इस खतरनाक खेल से मैं महाराष्ट्र को, देश को, मेरे आदिवासी भाई बहनों को सजग करूं। कांग्रेस द्वारा एक जाति को दूसरी जाति से लड़ाने का खतरनाक खेल खेला जा रहा है और ये खेल इसलिए खेला जा रहा है क्योंकि कांग्रेस कभी दलितों, पिछड़ों, आदिवासियों को आगे बढ़ते नहीं देख सकती।
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera. Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
We reached an agreement on patrolling. We have gone back to where the situation was in 2020, and we can say with that the disengagement process with China, you can say, has been completed. The understanding, to my knowledge, is that we will be able to do the patrolling which we were doing in 2020.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country. Number 1 in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust.
तालियों के साथ हम स्वागत करेंगे आदरणीय मोदी जी का। छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज की।
Corruption first on the agenda in nation.
कांग्रेस का एकमात्र एजेंडा है किसी भी तरह एससी समाज की एकता को तोड़ो, एसटी समाज की एकता को तोड़ो, ओबीसी समाज की एकता को चकनाचूर कर दें। कांग्रेस चाहती है कि एससी समाज अलग अलग जातियों में बिखरा रहे ताकि एससी समाज की सामूहिक शक्ति कमजोर पड़ जाए। कांग्रेस चाहती है कि ओबीसी समाज भी अलग अलग जातियों में बटा रहे ताकि ओबीसी के तौर पर उनकी जो एकजुटता की पहचान बनी है, ये ओबीसी अगर ओबीसी रहे तो उनकी ताकत बढ़ जाएगी। ये ताकत न बढ़े इसलिए ओबीसी समाज को भी जातियों में बिखेर दो, इसलिए वो ओबीसी को भी अलग अलग जातियों में बांटने का खेल कर रही है। कांग्रेस चाहती है कि हमारा एसटी समाज अलग अलग जातियों में बटा रहे, क्योंकि आज आदिवासी के रूप में, जनजातीय समूह के रूप में, शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब के रूप में समाज की एकता, समाज की एक पहचान, समाज की एकजुटता आज उभर करके आई है और वो मजबूती से अपनी आवाज उठा न पाए, इसलिए उनको भी छोटी छोटी जातियों में बिखेर दो।
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
It was the grand launch of NDTV World by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. NDTV World, as he laid out his vision for the India century at the NDTV World Summit.
ऐसी सदी जिसमें भारत के प्रयासों से दुनिया में स्थिरता आए,
in the presence of those who are shaping our future.
मेरी तरफ से आपको ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं हैं।
NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV Summit outlined his vision for the India Century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बने.
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
Not just Indians trusting India's leadership, but the global South especially trusting India's leadership.
Permanent seat on the UN Security Council is something that should be India's right.
Canada is concerned, I think there are some very specific issues. I think a lot of people know that.
AI is going to be one of the most important, drivers.
It's a very exciting time for India, Indian cinema as well at a global level.
NDTV World Summit was more than just a conversation. It was a confluence of ideas poised to shape our global future.
Hello everybody, you're watching NDTV. Supreme Court's important verdict on Maharashtra and yet another call threat to Salman Khan and the Maharashtra campaign is starting to peak. All that and more in this bulletin, but first the headlines. Targeting film stars is still on. Call threats return to Bollywood. Is that the big question there? Fresh threat has been issued to Salman Khan over a song linked to a gangster. Supreme Court's big decision on Aligarh Muslim University, AMU minority status to be decided by a new bench now. SC in fact has overturned its previous order on AMU. 1967 order said AMU cannot claim minority status. Shameful slugfest in J&K yet again for the third day, face-off over special status resolution. Chief Minister of Kerala, Pinarayi Vijayan versus Priyanka Gandhi over Wayanad battle. The CM says Priyanka Gandhi is contesting with the support of Jamaat. Haveri police station in Karnataka has registered an FIR against BJP MP Tejasvi Surya for a false claim that a farmer in the district died by suicide after having his land claimed by the Waqf board. Meanwhile, the air quality in Delhi continues to worsen with multiple areas reaching severe levels of AQI this morning. Bollywood actor Salman Khan has received a new threat call from the Lawrence Bishnoi gang over a song, this time linking him with the notorious gangster. In fact, the threat was sent to Mumbai's traffic control room and the threat was made in reference to a song, Main Sikandar Hoon, that allegedly links both Salman Khan and Lawrence Bishnoi. And the threat basically said that the songwriter could face severe retaliation within a month. The threat also said that the songwriter will no longer be able to write songs, but the message went on to directly challenge Salman Khan, saying that if Salman Khan has the courage, he should be able to save him. Now, this incident is important because it adds to a series of threats involving Lawrence Bishnoi and his associates who have previously targeted Salman Khan over issues linked to a black buck poaching case from 1998. Remember, this comes at a time when Mumbai police are actually probing another case involving a threat call and a demand for 50 lakh in extortion directed at actor Shah Rukh Khan. Well, this call was made to Bandra police and it was traced to a stolen phone. I have my colleague Radhika reporting with more details on this. Radhika, yet another threat call to Salman Khan. We have really lost count of the kind of threat calls that he's getting, and every time the police, catches somebody, it turns out to be someone who works, either in the labor industry and someone who basically says that he doesn't mind going to jail. So, is the police wondering if these calls have to be taken seriously or not?
Absolutely. These threat calls have caused a lot of headache as far as Mumbai police is concerned. They've been on their toes, especially after Baba Siddiqui murder case, they are not ready to take these threat calls lightly. Now, yet another threat to Salman Khan, this once again being received by Mumbai Police Traffic Control Room. Apparently, this was a Lawrence Bishnoi gang member. Not entirely certain, investigations are on, and this threat is in connection to a song that links Salman Khan to Lawrence Bishnoi. The caller, in fact, threatening the songwriter, saying he'll be met with dire consequences, and also saying that if Salman Khan has the courage, he should protect him. So therefore, now Mumbai Police has launched an investigation, FIR being registered, the caller is being traced. This a day after Shah Rukh Khan also receiving threat. This threat call was received by Bandra police station, whereby the caller sought 50 lakh rupees. Otherwise, Shah Rukh Khan will be met with dire consequences, is what the caller said. An arrest has been made in connection to this. A lawyer from Chhattisgarh has been arrested, Faizan Khan. He says that his phone was stolen and this is part of a conspiracy. So the investigations are, of course, underway. All this after a series of threat calls that were received by Salman Khan, especially post Baba Siddiqui murder. And as you mentioned, multiple people were arrested in connection to this. A vegetable seller, a daily wage worker also arrested from Karnataka just recently. He sought a 5 crore ransom. Another individual sought 2 crore ransom. Of course, some of them are prank calls, some of them are mischief calls, some of them are part of the Bishnoi community. However, how serious these threats are, do they belong to the core Lawrence Bishnoi gang? That is something that is being investigated at this point, but nothing really linking them to Lawrence Bishnoi, except the call that was made recently, linking that song with the Salman Khan, Lawrence Bishnoi song and Salman Khan. There, the police feel that it could be somebody belonging to Lawrence Bishnoi gang. However, there are also mischief calls and prank calls being made. But as I said, police not really taking these calls lightly. They are registering FIR. They are tracking down every single caller who made these calls. And Mumbai police on their toes, especially following Baba Siddiqui's shocking murder and the threats that indeed were received by Salman Khan over the last several years from Lawrence Bishnoi gang.
Right. Thank you, Radhika, for joining us with those details. We also have PK Jain, who is former additional DGP of Maharashtra. We also have Nasir Abdullah, who is an actor, belongs to the film industry. Thank you, both of you, for joining me on this broadcast. To you, Mr. Abdullah, first, what kind of impact do these threat calls have on the film industry? Because Mumbai is the proud home of so many struggling actors, struggling artists who may not really have that kind of resources. But definitely, this does have an impact on mental health. How are people in the industry feeling about this, or is it just business as usual?
My God, you've already given me all the options, but many years ago, there were threats to film directors and the producers, and there were attempts at their lives. Rakesh Roshan was actually injured some 15 odd years ago or more. So here is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing this as obviously a kind of a prank, because not only actors, airlines have been getting threats. Now, how seriously actually can you take? I think we shouldn't take them seriously, because if there is a bomb on board, that means the security at the airports has been lapsed, and I don't think so. I don't think so there have been 50 calls. There have been a lot of diversions of the flights and delays and all that. So is it okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir. Please go on.
Okay. So I heard somebody else speaking over me, so I was wondering. Anyway, so the point is, these are, as you were saying, they were discovered to be crank calls, someone from a vegetable seller and all that. So I think the government and the security agencies should take it with a pinch of salt and not get overtly worried. And we shouldn't even be talking about it on the TV shows, because that gives these guys a lot of fun and a lot of whatever publicity they might be seeking. Right. So I think the agencies should be investigating undercover without making a big deal. There was once upon a time a threat to the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, some eight years ago, and all the channels were talking about it, which I thought was stupid. Okay. You don't talk about these things openly to warn them off. And there was some letter somebody sent. Who sends a letter these days? Right. With, So I think from what I've already heard from you, from your news and your journalists, have exposed a lot of them to be crank callers.
Right.
So, and of course, this Bishnoi gang business and all that, anybody can claim to do this. I can do it one day from an unused, like a mobile phone or somebody's landline,
Right.
So I really think one thing is leading to another, and this should be investigated in secret, and we should be discussing other things that are needing our attention of the government rather than have this, because they should do it underground anyway. This is just seems to be almost a publicity stunt.
Absolutely.
Almost. Of course, I know what you mean, but why would they fire in the air near Salman Khan's house? What kind of idiots
Absolutely,
are they?
that is a valid
If you
point. Let me ask this question to Mr. P.K. Jain. Very important points that Mr. Abdullah has expressed, sir. How seriously should we take these threats? Because, this is a city that has seen Baba Siddiqui's murder just a few weeks ago, but it's also going to polls in 2 weeks from now. There have been many political upheavals that Mumbai has seen. Is there a certain fear amongst Mumbaikars, Mr. Jain, that, they're not safe anymore? At least their celebrities are not safe anymore. Is there a sentiment like that?
I just do not agree. My fellow panelist has very categorically said that this thing should be downplayed. No unnecessary and undue attention should be given to such calls. It's a pure and simple prank call, because the person has, in the earlier case, in the case of Salman Khan, also the call had gone to the message had gone to the WhatsApp group of the Mumbai Traffic Police. Now, anybody linked to the gang would know that traffic police is not the executive police. And secondly, in this case, also the call comes to the landline of Bandra police station. It's all absolute, it's a prank call. The police are investigating. They've already taken somebody into custody who says that his phone was stolen. I think this information should be downplayed. It should not be leaked to the police. The police should be doing a purely professional job in investigating as to who's made the call, under what circumstances, what happens to the phone, all those technical details. The police already must be looking into it. But by making it public, they're only aggravating their own problems, because this gives ideas to all these, lucha lafangas who have nothing else to say, who want some kind of a cheap publicity.
Right.
So, such calls should be kept in secret. Whoever is like in this case, Shah Rukh Khan should be secretly advised, quietly advised to be more careful, and they should beef up his security if they so desire or so feel, or if the assessment says so. And that's the end of the matter. Why should we unnecessarily, why should the media also give it so much of publicity? A prank call being made to a police station, not even to the person, the alleged, the so-called probable victim. And now I know we are going guns after it. I think we should downplay the incident. We should ignore it, and we should do a professional job in inquiring into as to who's made the call, under what circumstances, take necessary legal action. That's the end of it.
I think the investigation here and law enforcement is key rather than the publicity of it. Thank you so much, both of you, for making those excellent points and for joining us on this show. Moving on to other news, Prime Minister Narendra Modi kicked off his campaign in poll-bound Maharashtra with a rally in Dhule. In fact, this whole week, he would be addressing about 9 rallies. During his speech, Prime Minister said that the Mahavikas Aghadi, which is the opposition alliance, has blocked reforms in the state of Maharashtra, and that it was the Mahayuti alliance, the ruling coalition of which the BJP is a part, that brought back development in the state. He also said that it is Mahayuti that has given respect to women and also empowered them. He commented on the alleged sexist comments made by Shiv Sena UBT leader Arvind Sawant on Shaina NC, who is the BJP candidate from Mumbai, and he said that it was the MVA which was insulting women. Prime Minister also added that Congress party wants to trigger a fight between different castes and wants to divide the country.
पिछले 10 वर्षों में केंद्र सरकार ने महिलाओं को केंद्र में रखकर अनेक बड़े-बड़े फैसले लिए हैं। पिछली सरकारों ने सैनिक स्कूलों से लेकर काम के कई क्षेत्रों में महिलाओं का रास्ता रोका हुआ था। पूरा महाराष्ट्र देख रहा है, कांग्रेस और अघाड़ी वाले लोग अब महिलाओं को किस तरह गाली देने पर उतर आए हैं। कैसी कैसी अभद्र भाषा कैसे कैसे कमेंट महिलाओं को नीचा दिखाने की कोशिश। महाराष्ट्र की कोई माता बहन कभी भी अघाड़ी वालों के इस कृत्य को माफ नहीं कर सकती। कांग्रेस द्वारा एक जाति को दूसरी जाति से लड़ाने का खतरनाक खेल खेला जा रहा है और ये खेल इसलिए खेला जा रहा है क्योंकि कांग्रेस कभी दलितों, पिछड़ों, आदिवासियों को आगे बढ़ते नहीं देख सकती।
Well, ruckus prevailed in the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly for the third day. In fact, a brawl broke out between BJP MLAs and marshals of the J&K Assembly on Thursday after the Speaker directed eviction of opposition members who had stormed the well during their protest over the special status resolution. In fact, this is the third day that ruckus prevailed in J&K Assembly. BJP members protested over special status resolution, leading the Speaker to marshal out 12 opposition MLAs and also legislator Sheikh Khurshid as the House met for the day. BJP MLAs also raised slogans like the Pakistani agenda nahi chalega. They also jumped into the well of the House, following which Speaker directed that they be marshalled out. This is the third day that the House has been witnessing uproar on this issue of special status to Jammu and Kashmir, the resolution that the J&K Assembly has with regard to this. My colleague Neeta joins us with more details on this. Neeta, tell us what exactly happened today, because we saw yesterday some really powerful visuals coming there from J&K of protest, uproar, and today again a repeat of what we saw yesterday. Tell us what really happened today in the J&K Assembly.
The same, situation continues, Vasudha, because the MLA from Langate insists that Article 370 and 35A, when the statehood would be restored, those resolutions should also be passed. However, the Bharatiya Janata Party's leader of opposition, Mr. Sunil Sharma, he said that such, sentiment should not be attributed to the House, and that's when the ruckus started. Following that, 12 to 15 MLAs of Bharatiya Janata Party were marshalled out. But it's really sad, Vasudha, a day when it's happening, a day when 2 VDGs, that is the Village Defence Guards, have been killed in Kishtwar area. The Kishtwar area is again in Jammu area. It would have been nice if these MLAs would have, stayed, silence for 2 minutes, or, have discussed the issues that why terror graph is going up in Jammu and Kashmir. But despite that, they were all into theatrics, they were all into politics as to what should be done, statehood restored, statehood not restored, Article 370, Article 35A, when all of them know that already a resolution has been passed. The Chief Minister, the sitting Chief Minister, was here in Delhi. He met the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, the Raksha Mantri. All of them assured him that the statehood be restored. And after that only, there was an address of Mr. Manoj Sinha when he addressed the House. He also reassured that constitutional safeguards would be given back to the people of the state. Despite that, such a ruckus was happening consecutively for the third day. Meanwhile, in Sopore also, again 2 militants were killed. Again, there's a cordon of search operation still going on, and this graph is continuously rising because we have been seeing incidents of violence, incidents of terror being reported both from the Jammu segment also and the Kashmir segment also. Vasudha?
Right. Thank you, Neeta, for joining us with those details. Ruckus continues for the third consecutive day in J&K Assembly over restoration of Article 370. Moving on to other stories, the Supreme Court has deferred the judgment on the Aligarh Muslim University issue, saying that another bench would be constituted to decide on a 2006 order by the Allahabad High Court overturning the minority status of the educational institution. In fact, remember that critics have argued that it's a government funding that disqualifies AMU from minority status, while supporters have contended that it should retain its character. This decision will resolve decades of legal challenges regarding AMU's constitutional status, but SE has overruled the Basha judgment, which said that an educational institution can claim minority tag only if it is established and managed by the minority community.
I'm joined by somebody who's going to give us a good perspective. Please explain to us, and I just spoke to Mr. Kapil Sibal, who also argued for the petitioner, saying that this was a reference bench. So can you explain to them what exactly does this judgment mean and what is it envisage?
So what this judgment does is that it is by a majority of 4:3. It says that the Aziz Basha judgment of the Supreme Court of 1967, which said that AMU is not a minority institution, it sets that judgment aside. So therefore that finding judicial that AMU is not a minority institution is gone. To overcome that finding, in the early 80s, a parliamentary amendment was passed. So therefore, that parliamentary amendment has become irrelevant. Now the question is, on a factual basis, given the test laid down by the court itself today, on what is the indices on which a minority institution
They have also traced it back to the history and know what was the...
So the test include what is the history, who put the money in, what is who were the people involved, which community it was meant to primarily help. All those aspects are part of the test, which at least in my personal view and assessment, AMU should hopefully be able to meet. But that is a test which will be applied to the facts of AMU whenever that smaller bench sits and then makes that determination. But today I think is a big day in terms of AMU's history and legal entity and identity, because that 60s judgment of Aziz Basha was something which was a huge problem for its minority status, and that does not exist anymore.
So the big question is that the Supreme Court, the 7-judge bench, has stopped short of giving it a minority character.
That is correct, because that's a factual determination in light of the test laid down, which will be done by a smaller bench. But of course, it has moved in that direction by setting aside the judgment which had held it to be non-minority, and also the tests which have been laid down. At least it seems to me, prima facie, that hopefully whenever that adjudication is made, AMU will have a very good case of making before the court that we meet those
because the 4 judges have given the very clear guidelines.
Correct.
The big question is now, what is AMU? Does it still remain a minority status? It can that 50% reservation that had been given for Muslim postgraduates in medical.
So today the status of AMU is in effect, judicially to be decided by the smaller bench, right? That is where we de jure. But de facto, of course, in the sense that whatever was continuing, because there was a stay operating over the earlier judgment as well of the Allahabad High Court, and that position de facto continues. So you can say de facto is minority, but the actual de jure status is yet to be determined by the court, by the smaller bench, whenever that matter is heard.
We honor the judgment, that's all. We will wait and we will discuss with our expert for the next course of action. With our legal experts, we will discuss and we'll wait for the next course of action, and we will have discussion with our legal experts. We have a team of legal experts.
SE opening the doors for AMU there to get back its minority status. Important verdict there. Moving on to political news today, as politics heats up in Kerala's Wayanad ahead of the Lok Sabha bypoll. Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan on Thursday has alleged that Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadrau, who is contesting the seat, is doing so with the backing of Jamaat-e-Islami, which is a political Islamist organization. Vijayan, in his Facebook post, has claimed that Wayanad by-election has exposed the Congress party's secular mask completely. He said, and I quote, Priyanka Gandhi is running as a candidate there with the backing of Jamaat-e-Islami. So what exactly is the Congress party's position? Our country is not unfamiliar with Jamaat-e-Islami. Does that organization's ideology align with democratic values? That's the big question he has asked. In fact, the Chief Minister's comment comes days after Welfare Party, a political outfit that's linked to Jamaat-e-Islami, extended its support to Priyanka Gandhi, who, remember, is contesting against CPM's Satyan Mukheri and BJP's Navya Haridas.
You can't comment on such things.
केरल के मुख्यमंत्री द्वारा, जो कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी के हैं, कांग्रेस की इतनी बड़ी नेता पर ये आरोप लगाना कि जमाते इस्लामी का सपोर्ट ले रही हैं, ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी आरोप नहीं लगा रही है। ये वो पार्टी आरोप लगा रही है जो कांग्रेस की कई जगह पे पोस्टर में आप साथ में भी दिखेंगे। तो ऐसी स्थिति में प्रियंका वडेरा जी और कांग्रेस दोनों एक्सपोज हो रही है।
Meanwhile, the Haveri police station in Karnataka has registered an FIR against BJP MP Tejasvi Surya for a false claim that a farmer in the district died by suicide after having his land claimed by the Waqf board. According to the FIR that has been registered, Tejasvi Surya claimed that a farmer identified as Rudrappa Channappa Baikal has died by suicide after he found out that his land was taken over by Waqf, and he blamed Chief Minister of Karnataka Siddaramaiah and Minister B.Z. Zamir Ahmed Khan, and he said that they had unleashed catastrophic effects in Karnataka. That's what he said in a post on X. Now, the post has since been deleted by Tejasvi Surya, which also mentioned a news report by a Kannada paper. Now, the SP of police in Haveri issued a clarification that the claim on the reason for suicide is false. Moving on, top battlegrounds in Maharashtra are gearing up for the big fight. In fact, NDTV has a special exclusive interview with the Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister, also somebody who's leading the NCP's fight, Ajit Pawar. Ajit Pawar speaks on the Mahayuti poll strategy. He has in fact backed the caste census demand, and he's also said that caste census needs to be done once. He also says that he doesn't understand why politicians need to politicize it.
आपको लगता है कि जातिगत जनगणना की आवश्यकता है, जिसकी बात राहुल गांधी हर वक्त करते आ रहे हैं?
एक दफ़ा होनी चाहिए। एक दफ़ा क्या होता है, ये पॉलिटिशियन लोग हमारे जैसे उसका इशू निकाल के कुछ ना कुछ लोगों के मन में, दिमाग में कुछ ना कुछ डालने की कोशिश करते हैं। वर्ड कहा जा रहा है, पूरी दुनिया कहा जा रही है, और हम उसमें ही फंसे हैं। तो एक दफ़ा लोगों को भी सबको समझना चाहिए कि एग्जैक्ट कौन सी कास्ट कितनी है, फिर जो पिछड़ी है उनको कितनी मदद करनी चाहिए, बजट में कितना प्रावधान करना चाहिए, ये समझ में आएगा। अभी किसी को भी मालूम नहीं कौन कितने हैं, कौन कितने हैं। सब बोलते हैं हम इतने परसेंट है, हम इतने परसेंट है, हम इतने परसेंट है। सबका परसेंटेज आपने टोटल मारा तो परसेंटेज आता है 150, 160 और 100% होना चाहिए।
Time for a short break. For news and updates on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
Another call threat issued to Salman Khan over a song linked to gangster Lawrence Bishnoi. Bollywood star Salman Khan gets another threat over a song linking his name to gangster Lawrence Bishnoi. Important verdict by Supreme Court today on Aligarh Muslim University minority status. The court has said that it will be decided by a new bench. In fact, the Supreme Court has overturned previous order on AMU. 1967 order had said that AMU cannot claim minority status. Shameful slugfest in the assembly of JNK. In fact, this is the third day that slugfest has been witnessed in JNK assembly. The face-off is over special status resolution. Chief Minister of Kerala Pinarayi Vijayan has hit out at the Congress party, saying that Priyanka Gandhi Vadra is contesting Wayanad with the support of Jamaat-e-Islami, that's anti-India.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president.
Donald triumphs. What does Trump's win mean for America, for the world, for the wars, and for India-US relations? Non-stop coverage on NDTV. Top analysts and voices from the ground. Extensive coverage on NDTV.
Hello and welcome to India Sense, where I speak with global opinion makers.
The United States has made a strategic decision over the last 20 years to move closer to India.
So a $7 trillion economy seems a perfectly conceivable number.
If you want to be a national party, it's that you sort of accept the way the world is rather than want to endlessly hark back to how it was.
Modi is promoting the digitization of the economy, which is accelerating growth in the country.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
We reached an agreement on patrolling. We have gone back to where the situation was in 2020, and we can say with that the disengagement process with China, you can say, has been completed. The understanding, to my knowledge, is that we will be able to do the patrolling which we were doing in 2020.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the topmost news platform in the country. Number 1 in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust.
तालियों के साथ हम स्वागत करेंगे आदरणीय मोदी जी का। छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज की।
त्यांचा अजेंडा फक्त करप्शन फर्स्ट, आमचा अजेंडा आहे नेशन फर्स्ट.
घोषणा आणि जनतेचे पैसे लुटणं.
कट कमिशन आणि करप्शनला आमच्याकडे थारा नाही. त्यांचा परिवारवाद, आमचा महाराष्ट्रवाद.
महाराष्ट्रामध्ये 1,75,000 जागा रिक्त आहेत, पण का भरत नाही? राज्याची जनतेच्या घमाच्या पैशाची तिजोरी लुटण्यासाठी हे सरकार आहे.
पूर्वीच्या सरकारच्या काळामध्ये निधी देताना त्यांना असं वाटायचं की त्यांच्याच खिशातले पैसे चालले. शेतकऱ्यांना मोफत वीज देण्याचं काम आपल्या सरकारने सुरू केलं.
I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
It was the grand launch of NDTV World by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. NDTV World, as he laid out his vision for the India century at the NDTV World Summit.
कैसी सदी जिसमें भारत
Welcome back. The air quality in Delhi continues to worsen with multiple areas of the city reaching severe levels of AQI this morning. This was reported by the Central Pollution Control Board as winters start to settle in. A thick blanket of smog covered Delhi today morning. In fact, this was seen across Delhi NCR. Air quality lingered in severe categories in several areas. This has also sparked worry about rise in respiratory illnesses. Vehicular emission is, of course, the top contributor to Delhi's pollution during winter season. More than stubble burning, road dust or even bursting of firecrackers, with over 50% of pollution from local sources linked to city's fragmented transportation system. This is what a study by the Center for Science and Environment said recently. Moving on to more news, Bollywood actor Salman Khan has received another threat call from the Lawrence Bishnoi gang over a song, this time linking him with the notorious gangster. In fact, the threat was sent to Mumbai's traffic control room on Thursday, and it was made in reference to a song, Main Sikandar Hoon, that allegedly links both Salman Khan and Lawrence Bishnoi. And it said that the songwriter would have to face severe retaliation within a month. Remember that the threat also said that the songwriter will not be able to write songs, while the message went on to directly challenge Salman Khan, although it was not linked to Salman Khan directly. It said that if Salman Khan has the courage, he should be able to save them. Now, this incident is important because it adds to a series of threats involving Lawrence Bishnoi and his associates, who have previously in the past also targeted Salman Khan over issues linked to a black buck poaching case from 1998. Remember, this comes at a time when Mumbai police are already probing another case involving a call threat and a demand for rupees 50 lakh in extortion directed at actor Shah Rukh Khan, and the call was made to Bandra police station and traced to a phone that was registered in Raipur, and in fact it came from a stolen phone. But clearly how seriously these threats need to be taken, that needs to be answered. But of course, there is the police is investigating this. In fact, there are two separate investigations that are on in the Shah Rukh Khan case, and with respect to Salman Khan, there is a separate investigation that the Mumbai police has already launched. Moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi kicked off his campaign in poll-bound Maharashtra with a public rally in Dhule today morning. In fact, during his speech, Prime Minister said that the Mahavikas Aghadi, which is the opposition alliance, has blocked reforms in Maharashtra systematically. And in fact, he said that it was his current Mahayuti government, which also has the BJP, that has led to development in the state. He commented on the alleged sexist comments that were made by Shiv Sena UBT leader Arvind Sawant on Shaina NC, and the Prime Minister said that it was MBA which was insulting women, while the Mahayuti alliance was constantly empowering them. He also said that the Congress party was trying to trigger a fight between different castes in the country and was trying to divide the nation.
पिछले 10 वर्षों में केंद्र सरकार ने महिलाओं को केंद्र में रखकर अनेक बड़े-बड़े फैसले लिए हैं। पिछली सरकारों ने सैनिक स्कूलों से लेकर काम के कई क्षेत्रों में महिलाओं का रास्ता रोका हुआ था। पूरा महाराष्ट्र देख रहा है, कांग्रेस और अघाड़ी वाले लोग अब महिलाओं को किस तरह गाली देने पर उतर आए हैं। कैसी कैसी अभद्र भाषा, कैसे कैसे कमेंट, महिलाओं को नीचा दिखाने की कोशिश। महाराष्ट्र की कोई माता बहन कभी भी अघाड़ी वालों के इस कृत्य को माफ नहीं कर सकती। कांग्रेस द्वारा एक जाति को दूसरी जाति से लड़ाने का खतरनाक खेल खेला जा रहा है, और ये खेल इसलिए खेला जा रहा है क्योंकि कांग्रेस कभी दलितों, पिछड़ों, आदिवासियों को आगे बढ़ते नहीं देख सकती।
Moving on, the Supreme Court has deferred the judgment on the Aligarh Muslim University issue, saying another bench would be constituted to decide on a 2006 order by the Allahabad High Court overturning minority status of the education institution. Remember, critics have always argued that it is the government funding that disqualifies AMU from minority status, while supporters have contended that it should retain its character. Now, this decision will resolve years of legal challenges regarding AMU's constitutional status. Remember that the SE today overruled Basha judgment, which said that an educational institution can claim minority tag only if it was established and managed by a minority community. SE said that a regular bench will decide whether AMU is a minority institution based on what the 7-justice bench said today.
I'm joined by somebody who's going to give us a good perspective. Please explain to us, and I just spoke to Mr. Kapil Sibal, who also argued for the petitioner, saying that this was a reference bench. So can you explain to them what exactly does this judgment mean and what is it envisage?
So what this judgment does is that it is by a majority of 4:3. It says that the Aziz Basha judgment of the Supreme Court of 1967, which said that AMU is not a minority institution, it sets that judgment aside. So therefore that finding judicial that AMU is not a minority institution is gone. To overcome that finding, in the early 80s, a parliamentary amendment was passed. So therefore, that parliamentary amendment has become irrelevant. Now the question is, on a factual basis, given the test laid down by the court itself today on what is the indices on which a minority institution
They have
is to
also
be.
traced it back to the history and
Correct.
what was the...
So the test include what is the history, who put the money in, what is who are the people involved, which community it was meant to primarily help. All those aspects are part of the test, which at least in my personal view and assessment, AMU should hopefully be able to meet. But that is a test which will be applied to the facts of AMU whenever that smaller bench sits and then makes that determination. But today I think is a big day in terms of AMU's history and legal entity and identity, because that 60s judgment of Aziz Basha was something which was a huge problem for its minority status, and that does not exist anymore.
So the big question is that the Supreme Court, the 7-judge bench, has stopped short of giving it a minority character.
That is correct, because that's a factual determination in light of the test laid down, which will be done by a smaller bench. But of course, it has moved in that direction by setting aside the judgment which had held it to be non-minority, and also the tests which have been laid down. At least it seems to me, prima facie, that hopefully whenever that adjudication is made, AMU will have a very good case of making before the court that we meet those tests.
Because the 4 judges have given the very clear guidelines.
Correct.
The big question is now, what is AMU? Does it still remain a minority status? That 50% reservation that had been given for Muslim postgraduates in medical.
So today the status of AMU is in effect, judicially to be decided by the smaller bench, right? That is where we de jure. But de facto, of course, in the sense that whatever was continuing, because there was a stay operating over the earlier judgment as well of the Allahabad High Court, and that position de facto continues. So you can say de facto is minority, but the actual de jure status is yet to be determined by the court, by the smaller bench, whenever that matter is heard.
We honor the judgment, that's all. We will wait and we will discuss with our expert for the next course of action. With our legal experts, we will discuss and we'll wait for the next course of action, and we will have discussion with our legal experts. We have a team of legal experts.
Moving on to stories from the south of India, as politics heats up in Kerala's Wayanad ahead of the Lok Sabha bypoll scheduled on the 13th of November. Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan on Thursday has alleged that Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi is contesting the seat of Wayanad with the backing of Jamaat-e-Islami, which is a political Islamist organization. Vijayan made this point in a Facebook post, and he claimed that the Wayanad by-election has exposed the Congress party's secular mask completely. He said, and I quote, Priyanka Gandhi is running as a candidate there with the backing of Jamaat-e-Islami. So what exactly is the Congress party's position? Our country is not unfamiliar with Jamaat-e-Islami. Does the organization's ideology align with democratic values? That's a question he has asked in his post. The Chief Minister's comment, remember, comes days after Welfare Party, which is a political outfit linked to Jamaat-e-Islami, extended its support to Priyanka Gandhi. Remember, she's contesting the election Wayanad bypoll against CPM Satyan Mukheri and BJP's Navya Haridas.
You can't comment on such things. She's a national leader. Voters are different. Anyone who want to desire to vote can vote to any individual. Congress party believes in taking every section of the society. But I do not know much about that, whatever the Kerala CM is quoting. Kerala CM is afraid of losing his election in a very big way. That is why he is commenting. The entire state and the Wayanad people are appreciating the stand of Srimati Priyanka Gandhi. That is why they are jealous of her.
केरल के मुख्यमंत्री द्वारा जो कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी के हैं, कांग्रेस की इतनी बड़ी नेता पर ये आरोप लगाना कि जमाते इस्लामी का सपोर्ट ले रही हैं, ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी आरोप नहीं लगा रही है। ये वो पार्टी आरोप लगा रही है जो कांग्रेस की कई जगह पे पोस्टर में आप साथ में भी दिखेंगे। तो ऐसी स्थिति में प्रियंका वडेरा जी और कांग्रेस दोनों एक्सपोज हो रही है।
Well, Rahul Gandhi is in poll-bound Jharkhand today, and he has attacked Prime Minister Narendra Modi over SC/ST backward welfare. In fact, he said that there's no mainstreaming of ST community in India. He's also said that backward classes are being held back in India and that the PM gives only excuses. He says that he has demanded the caste census repeatedly because he wants to know where communities stand. This comes on a day when the Prime Minister took a pot shot at the Congress party, saying that the Congress party was trying to divide the different castes of India and was only trying to create divisions within the nation.
हिंदुस्तान के लोग, आदिवासी, दलित, पिछड़े वर्ग के लोग, इनकी इस देश में भागीदारी नहीं है, कॉर्पोरेट इंडिया में नहीं है, जुडिशियल सिस्टम में नहीं है, मीडिया में आप दिखा दो मुझे, आप मुझे मीडिया में, नेशनल मीडिया में एक आदिवासी एंकर दिखा दो, एक दिखा दो मुझे, एक दलित दिखा दो, एक पिछड़े वर्ग का दिखा दो, नहीं मिलेगा। आप में कोई कमी नहीं है, आप में कोई कमी नहीं है। हिंदुस्तान का पिछड़ा वर्ग, दलित वर्ग, आदिवासी वर्ग कोई भी काम कर सकता है, कुछ भी कर सकता है, कोई कमी नहीं है आप में। आपको रास्ता नहीं दिया जाता, आपको रोका जाता है। आपके सामने दरवाजा है और मोदी जी आके बहाने बनाते हैं। सच्चाई है। तो मैंने पार्लियामेंट में उनके सामने बोला कि आप ऐसे करिए, जाति जनगणना करते हैं, पता लगाते हैं इस देश में कितने दलित हैं, कितने आदिवासी हैं, कितने पिछड़े वर्ग के लोग हैं, पता लगाते हैं हमारी संस्थाओं में आदिवासी, दलित, पिछड़े वर्ग के कितने लोग हैं, पता लगाते हैं मीडिया में कितने हैं, पता लगाते हैं इस देश का जो धन है, बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियां हैं, इनमें दलित कितने हैं, आदिवासी कितने हैं, पिछड़े वर्ग के कितने लोग हैं, दूध का दूध, पानी का पानी कर देते। मैंने उनके सामने बोला, चुप हो गए। उसके बाद कहते हैं राहुल गांधी देश को बांटने की कोशिश कर रहा है। मतलब 90% लोगों के पास देश को चलाने में भागीदारी नहीं है। आप अंदर नहीं घुस सकते। मैं वो बात उठा रहा हूं, मैं कह रहा हूं कि भागीदारी होनी चाहिए, 90% लोगों को जगह मिलनी चाहिए। प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटी देखिए, आप मुझे बता दो कौन सी प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटी को आदिवासी चला रहा है, कौन सी प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटी को दलित चला रहा है, मुझे बता दो, नाम बता दो। ये बड़े बड़े जो अस्पताल हैं, अपोलो अस्पताल, ये सब जो है खुल रहे हैं, मुझे बता दो इसको इनमें से कौन सा है जिसका मालिक आदिवासी है, जिसका मालिक पिछड़े वर्ग का है, जिसका मालिक दलित है। आपको एक नहीं मिलेगा, पूरे देश में ढूंढ लो, एक नहीं मिलेगा। यह बात मैंने उठाई पार्लियामेंट में और कहते हैं राहुल गांधी देश को बांट रहा है। मैं चाहता हूं कि 90% लोगों को इस देश में भागीदारी मिली। जहां भी बीजेपी के लोग जाते हैं, वो भाई को भाई से लड़ाते हैं, एक धर्म को दूसरे धर्म से, एक जात को दूसरी जात से, एक भाषा को दूसरी भाषा से लड़ाते हैं, गुस्सा नफरत फैलाते हैं। मणिपुर को इन्होंने जलाया। आज तक हिंदुस्तान का प्रधानमंत्री नहीं गया है, आज तक नहीं गया है। मतलब उन्होंने ये बात मान ली कि मणिपुर जैसा प्रदेश है ही नहीं। प्रधानमंत्री, प्रदेश जल गया, प्रधानमंत्री आज तक उस प्रदेश में नहीं गए हैं। और प्रदेश को जलाने का काम बीजेपी के विचारधारा ने किया है। इसलिए मैंने कहा, कन्याकुमारी से कश्मीर में चला, कांग्रेस पार्टी के हजारों लोग चले 4000 किलोमीटर, और रास्ते में हमने कहा नफरत के बाजार में मोहब्बत की दुकान खोलेंगे। नफरत के बाजार में मोहब्बत की दुकान खोलेंगे और हिंदुस्तान में सब लोग प्यार से, इज्जत से एक साथ मिलकर रहेंगे। अब झारखंड का चुनाव मैंने देखा कि यहां पे हमारी काफी बहनें आई हैं। मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं कि जैसे ही यहां हमारी सरकार आएगी, वैसे ही खटाखट आपके बैंक अकाउंट में, आपके बैंक अकाउंट में अभी 1,000 रुपए जाता है, 2,500 रुपए महीने का ठकाठक अंदर। जो SC, ST, OBC का रिजर्वेशन है, उसको हम बढ़ाएंगे। ST का 26% से 28%, ST का 26% से 28%, SC का 10% से 12% और OBC का 14% से 27%।
That was Congress MP Rahul Gandhi speaking in Jharkhand with his major tribal push. My colleague Prabhakar joins me on the phone line. Prabhakar, in the Lok Sabha elections of 2024, the opposition won all tribal-dominated seats, and clearly the opposition is hoping that this momentum works for them. Tell us, what are the big takeaways from Rahul Gandhi's speech today? Because the last time, he spoke in Jharkhand, there was a lot of controversy over the caste census demand, and today the Prime Minister has also attacked him on the caste census demand.
Yeah, but here Rahul Gandhi is making a very, very important statement. He's talking about reservation. He's talking about enhancing the reservation quota if his party, that is the JMM Congress combined, is voted back to power in Jharkhand. And that's a substantial hike he is talking about, substantial rise in the quota for the OBCs, for the EBCs and the Dalits. He's talking about, and that I would say is a major trump card which Rahul Gandhi is playing on behalf of the India Alliance coalition partners in the Jharkhand election. He's also at the same time trying to woo the women voters. He's talking about the enhancement of the stipend given to the women voters, the rural women folks, which was earlier 1,000 rupees a month, which was countered by BJP, and they had announced that if they are voted to power, that is, if NDA is voted to power in Jharkhand, that would be enhanced to 2,100 rupees. And now Rahul Gandhi is saying that if India Alliance is voted back to power in Jharkhand, it would be 2,500 rupees per month. So that's a substantial rise from 1,000 rupees a month. So on one hand, where he is trying to woo the women voters, he's in a big way actually made an announcement and trying to lure the EBCs, OBCs and the Dalit voters of Jharkhand, and that actually might become the epicenter of the election Jharkhand campaign, ongoing campaign.
Right. Thank you, Prabhakar, for joining us with those details. Rahul Gandhi's big SC/ST OBC push in poll-bound Jharkhand. Moving on to some global news. The news of Trump's return to White House is already affecting the situation in West Asia conflict. In fact, Israel has intensified strikes and raids in both Lebanon and Gaza and is facing far more resistance. In fact, it's being seen as a hint at push to finish the Middle East war before the Trump term actually begins. My colleague Mohammad Ghazali joins us with more details on this. Ghazali, the question that everyone is asking is, will Trump be able to restrain Zelensky? I mean, restrain, will he be Netanyahu from actually, intensifying his attack on Iran? And of course, will he be able to stop the Ukraine-Russia war? Will he be able to support Ukraine the way Biden has done? So clearly, many questions there on people's mind. What does the global scenario look like even before the Trump, term begins?
See, Vasudha, Mr. Trump is very unpredictable, and it is easier said than done that this war will come to a halt or the war will end the moment Trump assumes the chair of president of United States. But we already know the kind of bonhomie he enjoys with Mr. Netanyahu. Netanyahu was one of the first leaders, global leaders, to have predicted that Trump should come or he's going to win the elections, and he was one among the first leaders to congratulate Mr. Trump for his victory. are factors war or not, because Israel seems to be in a position to annex more land, and this is what they are doing. Gaza aerial attacks continue in Lebanon as well, and that is why it looks very uncertain that Mr. Trump will immediately be able to halt the war. The attacks have been going on, and it has also now visible repercussions about it. We have seen that how in Amsterdam, the Israeli football fans who first created ruckus, as per the allegation of the some sports journalists from global news channels, that how Israeli fans were they were creating or tearing Palestinian flags in Amsterdam, and then later they faced a brutal attack from Arab citizens there. So this war is now also bringing a lot of global implications for Israeli citizens from who are not, or the Jews in particular, who are not there in Israel, but they are spread out in different countries. When it comes to stopping the war, it appears, because Trump also got majority of Arab American votes who were disappointed with the Harris-Biden administration of aiding Israel when it comes to attack Lebanon or Gaza. And Mr. Trump's policy doesn't seem to differ from that, but he keeps continuing to say that he will stop the war. So we'll have to see that what kind of negotiations he brings to the table, knowing very well his hostile behavior towards Iran. And all the players all the stakeholders in this conflict have clearly stated the point that if Gaza stops, if bombardment and attacks in Gaza stop, then perhaps every stakeholder, be it the Houthis, be it the Iranian proxies in different regions, like Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthis in Yemen, Iraqi Shiite militias in Iraq, they will all stop their assault on Israel if Israel stops the attack in Gaza and Lebanon. So we'll have to see that how Mr. Biden, because we are also picking up reports that some Lebanese American people will be, some leaders in the administration will be appointed as the go-to person or contact person for dealing with Lebanon. And the same we'll have to see who he appoints as his Arab administrator, the one who will deal with the Arab countries. But many Arab nations and leaders are very excited that Trump is back in office, and perhaps he enjoys good bonhomie with MBS, with Benjamin Netanyahu and other Arab leaders as well.
Right, many questions there, but what we know so far is big changes are expected in West Asia, and of course we would know all that in a few weeks from now. Moving on to some domestic news, the Indian rupee today has hit a fresh lifetime low. In fact, my colleague Sakshi Bajaj has more details on this.
That's right, the Indian rupee has weakened to an all-time low of 84 rupees 37 paise to the dollar. Now, there are a whole host of reasons, but experts believe there are two key reasons for this decline that we're witnessing at the moment. The first reason really is sustained outflows from foreign institutional investors that are hurting the rupee at the moment. Remember, after Donald Trump's victory, we have seen the dollar index near a fresh 4-month high, and that is also hurting the Indian rupee. Experts believe going forward, the bullish outlook for the US dollar is also going to continue to impact the rupee, and therefore we are going to see investors adopt a cautious stance going forward.
Well, time for a short break. More news and updates on the other side.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital, Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV Summit outlined his vision for the India Century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बने.
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
Not just
Indians trusting India's leadership, but the global South especially trusting India's leadership.
Permanent seat on the UN Security Council is something that should be India's right.
Canada is concerned, I think there are some very specific issues. I think a lot of people know that.
AI is going to be one of the most important, drivers.
It's a very exciting time for India, Indian cinema as well at a global level.
NDTV World Summit was more than just a conversation. It was a confluence of ideas poised to shape our global future.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president.
Donald triumphs. What does Trump's win mean for America, for the world, for the wars, and for India-US relations? Non-stop coverage on NDTV. Top analysts and voices from the ground. Extensive coverage on NDTV.
Hello and welcome to India Sense, where I speak with global opinion makers.
The United States has made a strategic decision over the last 20 years to move closer to India.
Now, a $7 trillion economy seems a perfectly conceivable number.
If you want to be a national party, it's that you sort of accept the way the world is rather than want to endlessly hark back to how it was.
Modi is promoting the digitization of the economy, which is accelerating growth in the country.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV. I'm Aditi Bhardwaj and let's take a look at the top stories that we're tracking here at this hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi campaigns in poll-bound Maharashtra, trains guns at Mahavikas Aghadi's divisive politics, gives big unity message stating ek hai to safe hai. Uproar continues over restoration of special status in Jammu and Kashmir Assembly for the third day. BJP members staged walkout after some indulged in physical confrontation. Political war of words escalate ahead of bypolls in Wayanad. Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan calls out Congress's secular mindset after Jamaat-e-Islami extends support to Priyanka Vadra. Supreme Court overrules its order denying Aligarh Muslim University minority status. New bench to decide minority status for AMU. As thick blanket of smog covers national capital region, Delhi government deploys drones in national capital to bring down air pollution levels. Special water sprinklers also installed. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Maharashtra and he launched his campaign accusing Congress party of orchestrating divisions between castes and tribes, claiming the party resents the progress of scheduled castes, tribals and other backward communities. Dividing castes and tribes is the biggest conspiracy against India. He also gave out a big message of unity saying, "Ek hai to safe hai." PM Modi also commented on the alleged sexist comments made by Shiv Sena UBT leader Arvind Sawant on China NC and said it was the MVA which was insulting women. Prime Minister also added that the Congress party wants to trigger a fight between different castes. Take a look at what he had to say.
पिछले 10 वर्षों में केंद्र सरकार ने महिलाओं को केंद्र में रखकर अनेक बड़े-बड़े फैसले लिए हैं। पिछली सरकारों ने सैनिक स्कूलों से लेकर काम के कई क्षेत्रों में महिलाओं का रास्ता रोका हुआ था। पूरा महाराष्ट्र देख रहा है, कांग्रेस और आघाड़ी वाले लोग अब महिलाओं को किस तरह गाली देने पर उतर आए हैं। कैसी कैसी अभद्र भाषा, कैसे कैसे कमेंट, महिलाओं को नीचा दिखाने की कोशिश। महाराष्ट्र की कोई माता बहन कभी भी अघाड़ी वालों के इस कृत्य को माफ नहीं कर सकती। कांग्रेस द्वारा एक जाति को दूसरी जाति से लड़ाने का खतरनाक खेल खेला जा रहा है और ये खेल